Batmosphere. I'm Batcap, and here's Bat Dance.
Oh, that's my Bat Dance voice.
How you doing, Bat Dance? What's up, buddy?
Not much. What's going on with you?
It's so good to see you. It's time for more bat chatting on the Batmosphere. Hey, Dan, what's our subject for today?
It's the Yocker, the one who gives us all the laughs. Ha ha hoo hee ha.
Yeah, we're finally bringing out the big guns, you know? We started with Alfred Pennyworth, and then we did Batwoman. Then the next show we did was one we couldn't even do a definitive version of. Now is going to be the exact opposite. Now is going to be the hardest character to do a definitive version for, in my humble opinion. And we're also going to have another first tonight. We're going to do a review on something that didn't just come out, and on a comic series. And I think this will be, or a comic arc, I think this will be the first time, Dan, you and I have ever talked comics.
I know, right? Well, you're usually the authority, and I hadn't even heard of this run until you suggested we do it for the episode today, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm not the authority. There are people that I know that know Batman way better than I do, but it's a thing that
when
I've
you
been
compare
talking about
mine
for so
and
long
your,
now.
like, yeah,
everything is relative. That's true.
Exactly.
But, like, we all have that thing. Like, I don't want to talk video games with you at all, because I would just sound like a complete, you know...
Okay, see, that's okay. I get it now. Because I am not the authority in any way with video games, and yet
right.
I
But
probably
compared
do more
to
and more
me,
than you.
you keep up with current. I don't look at anything current. I mean, I might know some retro stuff better than you do.
Oh yeah. Do you remember when I was out visiting and I did my horribly embarrassing display of trying to play Sonic at your guys' place, and Jason's like, you like, he was telling me how to play the game because I didn't know how to actually charge up the spin and go.
That is actually, I think, one of my favorite things that's ever happened with you. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. But I'm just talking about knowledge, not like ability. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I have no video games.
Well, everybody, thanks a bunch for being here. We've got some folks watching live. I see Mutale there. There's Mr. Roboto, Anime 2019. David Patrick's in there. Ash Williams. There's Lightning City. Hot Flame. Good to see everybody. We're going to have a good time tonight. We're going to do all of our normal segments. We're going to chat about things that we're doing lately with Batman. We're going to do a little bit of Bat news. We're going to talk about our definitive Joker, which is so difficult. I don't even think I've still landed on mine. I'm going to have to, like, come up with it in the moment.
Talk it out. We'll talk it out.
That's
like a therapy session.
You know, therapy. We should have called the show that. Therapy with the Joker.
Bat therapy.
I should have put on my Joker makeup again for this show, but I think I scared some people off. I think I lost subscribers over that.
Oh my! I've never seen you with the Joker makeup.
Oh, I'll send you the video. It was the Halloween Captain Logan show.
Ooh, this year?
Yeah. I just did it like a month ago.
I completely missed it. See, I have Joker on my arm like forever. You can't really see him too well, but he's there with the bang gun and all that stuff. Yeah, it looks
awesome. No, I'm jealous of that tattoo. It's great.
Thanks.
It makes it it will make everyone assume what your definitive version is.
That's true. And you're probably not too far off.
He just wore it on his sleeve. He wears his definitive Joker
literally
on his sleeve. So yeah, I've been really excited about the show. Really looking forward to this one. We're broadcasting a little bit late on this one. So glad that we're finally here and able to get our schedules coordinated and making it work. Let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Hey Dan, have you been doing anything cool related to Batman lately? As we get into the Bat Life segment.
I know, right? Well, I feel like such a fake Batman fan because every single time we come around this, I always am like, I've just been playing the Batman Arkham games. I haven't been doing anything super crazy Batman, but my wonderful fiance, did. I finally have Batman the Animated Series on Blu-ray, and this has the Mask of the Phantasm as well as Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero. I've never seen Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero, so I'm actually going to finally get around to watching that soon. I haven't gotten
fun with that.
Is it not good? Like, I wanted to kind of talk to you about it a little bit.
It's not. I don't like it. And,
oh, no.
Yeah, and, I mean, people fought me in the rewind, but I don't think it holds up at all. I think it's really boring. And when Eric and I did I mean, I hope you enjoy it more than I did, but
sure.
Every time I see it, I like it less. When we did Batmania, it was a snore fest, and we had a hard time getting through it, and yeah, it's not good. And I have a whole rant in that about how that movie does not understand how blood transfusions work, and there's this hilarious thing with math, and yeah, it's great, but no, it's pretty dull. What's annoying about it is that it's got some of the most spectacular animation that team ever did, especially in the third act. Boy, they had perfected explosions by that point. There's some really nice explosions at the end of that, but Spoiler
Dang.
alert, it's a Batman the Animated Series thing with explosions.
That's true. Yeah. The explosions in that show are always my favorite. They're just so they're so bombastic, and the way they actually animate is pretty great. Well, how would you compare it to like Mask of the Phantasm? Like Mask of the Phantasm, way above.
Yeah, it's night and day, man. I mean, it's just
Okay.
it's dull. I think the most. I mean, it's better than this. Don't get me wrong, but the most comparable thing to it for another thing would be like Turbo, a Power Rangers movie, where there's just not enough there. Like, again, it's not that bad, but it's not what you go for to Batman for, and it's not that there's not enough action, but like the story is not good enough to warrant the fact that it's not more action heavy than it is. I mean, Mask of the Phantasm is pretty talky, but it's such a good story, and I just found myself yearning for people to punch each other and get in costume because it's so dull and kind of routine. It's just most of that plot is just Mr. Free. Today is we're going to start a new segment. Cap explains Batman things to Dan's News. There's the main plot.
I mean, that's what the show is. This is half of what the show is.
The main plot is Mr. Freeze kidnapping Barbara Gordon in order to use her to try to save his wife. And most of it is her trying to escape in I forget where they are. They're in a hideout somewhere, and there's polar bears, and she's trying to escape. And most of it is her and Dick Grayson both not in costume. And it starts with some okay kind of love story stuff with them. And I wish that had been more of what the movie was about, and like their relationship. But everybody's kind of splintered throughout that movie, and it's not very much about Batman himself at all. And but. I'm giving you a poor review before you watch it. I hope you like it better than I did. And there are people who love that movie, but I don't care for it.
Yeah, I've always been curious. I just never got around to it, and I was...
Oh, I was wondering what was going on with your microphone.
Yeah, you hadn't mentioned anything before you started. I didn't realize my microphone wasn't on my actual microphone. Somebody in the chat, who was it? A Wood Puncher. Shouted out. Thank you, a Wood Puncher.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't usually use my webcam often, and I think it just took over the default thing. But yeah, I'm very curious. It's one that escaped me, and I like as a kid, I really wanted to watch it because I had seen Mask of the Phantasm, and I love that movie so much.
Yeah, there's a lot of divisiveness in the comments right now about Sub-Zero. There's a few people as are here.
Well, that's the thing is I've never really heard too much either way about it, and I think I do remember you talking about it a long time ago on the channel, probably like, gosh, yeah.
It would have been 2011. It was before I moved into my first house. Yeah. So it would have been probably 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
It's better overall than Mystery of the Batwoman, which you didn't even know existed until I mentioned it last show. But,
yeah.
Don't watch that.
Because we were talking
terrible.
about. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a couple super chats. I'll go ahead and knock those out real quick before I show off something. I'm also just showing things off. By the way, I'm also jealous of that box set. I don't have that yet. That's awesome.
Oh, I'm surprised. You have everything.
Well, I own that series already, and it's always difficult to prioritize like moving up with the series I have already. There's some new special features, but it's hard to prioritize it, and it's not like that's hard to get your hands on and it's going anywhere. So.
I wouldn't have gotten it. It was an early Christmas present from my fiance. I already have like well, you can't even see back there, but back there I have the DVD version of that's signed by Kevin Conroy. I'm gonna have to get him to sign this one or other people. I don't know. I don't make it out to cons so much anymore, but.
And see, even that's better than the way I've got it because I still have just the old separate box sets.
Yeah.
But see,
I got you. Oh, like the volumes.
Yeah, I'm bad about that. I'm like that with Star Trek. I've never updated my Star Trek box sets. And there have been 3 or 4 new releases, editions of that. So, like, because it's streamable everywhere. Like, I don't have the remasters of TOS or TNG. But... I
do have the TOS ones. I have TOS, the complete series, and I have the first couple seasons of TNG, but I don't have the entire series.
I have that 20th anniversary box set that they released, which I'm glad I have for TNG, which I'm glad I have because that has a disc that you wouldn't be able to get any other way. But I need to get the remasters because they also have special features I don't have. Like the one they did. This has nothing to do with Batman. Like the one they did on Measure of a Man in season 2 about the additional like 12 minutes they found and added back in and all of that. So
I didn't know about that.
I need to own that at some point. Yeah, I did once again, nothing about Batman. I did an interview with the writer of that episode at a con a couple years ago.
I watched that. It was awesome.
Oh, thanks, man. And we talked about that there, but it was really cool. The exclusive I got with her, she was awesome. But anyway, Mr. Roboto says,
I'm sorry, we're such physical media nerds.
We are, absolutely. But because of the streaming thing, it does make it harder for me to buy physical sometimes, to prioritize it. Like, I do it eventually, but I don't rush out like I used to, because I know that if I've got it streaming, that I'm probably not going to put the discs in for a while.
Yeah. I hear you.
I don't know about you. Do you do that? Like, if you have the ability to stream it, will you grab your discs anyway just to justify owning them? Do you do that? Because I don't.
I have a projector set up in my room. Like, I have a home theater set up. So usually playing it off the disc. Oh, yeah, you do. Yeah. No, you absolutely do. I generally play it off.
Two places. I've got one right here now, actually, but I also have one in my living room.
Oh, nice. It kind of depends. Most of the time, like something with the Simpsons on Disney Plus, I'd almost rather pull out the DVDs because they're actually in the proper aspect ratio, and I don't like the cropped in. Although it's nice to play on my phone when I'm doing stuff, I could just pull up the Disney Plus app and watch Simpsons stuff. But no, like I'm watching Breaking Bad right now, and I can't really tell the difference between popping in the Blu-ray and then watching it on Netflix. You know, So
I'm watching that through that with Brandon right now.
Yeah, we're on season 3.
We are too. How far in are you? Are we in the exact
we just finished, I think, episode 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're like 7 or 8 in.
Yeah. Anyway, Mr. Roboto.
$2 super chat. Dan, your thoughts on the end of Pennyworth? No spoilers. There's no way Dan's watched the end of Pennyworth.
Okay, so here's what happened. I accidentally paid for the first month because I was just doing the free trial when we were watching it for the show, like to do the review on the first few episodes. And I accidentally let Epix get my money for a month, and then I just let it sit there, and I never went back to watching Pennyworth. I actually do want to maybe just at some point pay, whatever it is, $7 to just go through and watch the entire thing, or maybe even get it on Blu-ray at some point, because I thought it was I liked the first few episodes. But I
did. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't stick with it, unfortunately. I do need to get back to it though, Mr. Roboto. I hope you liked it.
Boy, that's how they get you, man.
I know, right?
That's
the free trial, and then
that's a lot of these streaming services. Well, free trial, or they just hope that you'll like subscribe and forget you subscribed, even if you're not watching it.
Yep. And they just get your money each month.
The way AMC gets its money from the Stubs program, I think, is they know that everybody is gonna that like enough people are gonna skip enough shows that it's gonna really be in their favor eventually. You know what I mean? Like, I can go see 12 movies a month for $20 a month right now. I never see that many. Like, it is worth how much I'm paying, but I never get all of my value out of it. And like that's how they get you.
Yep.
Lightning City, $4.99 super chat. Off topic. Well, that's okay, because that's the show so far. What villains would you have liked to see in the Dark Knight saga? Well, it's at least on the topic of Batman, which is better than we've been. Me personally, I would have loved to have seen what CN would have done with the Riddler. What does he mean by CN? Christopher Nolan.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Sorry, in my head I was thinking Cartoon Network. I didn't know what that had to do with the Dark Knight. I was really confused for a minute. Yeah.
Cartoons.
So that's what a lot of people wanted from Rises, including myself, and I was really surprised when he didn't go with the Riddler. I thought there were a lot of other places he could have gone. I wanted to see Clock King in that universe, and I stand by that. Sounds like a joke. It's not, especially after we got him in Arrow, and I was like, look, it's Christopher Nolan's Clock King. It's exactly what I think he would have done with him. But what else did you want to see in that universe? Because I think there are plenty of other characters that they could have done in the more Christopher Nolan grounded style.
Yeah, Clayface was always my favorite, but I would want to see him kind of in the more like not in the realm of realism. I don't know how Christopher Nolan could have even tackled Clayface. Maybe it was just a guy who put on masks and stuff, and that's kind of his deal, as opposed to a guy who actually literally turns in
False Face from 60s Batman, because that's what False
Face
does.
Face?
Yeah, do you know about False Face?
No.
So Falseface is like a master of disguise who, when he's not wearing a disguise, this is still a disguise, but when he's not trying to look like another person, because he can do that thing where like he puts on a face and then he's like perfectly exactly the actor that's now playing him.
Yes.
But he'll put on like a no face, where like he doesn't have any features at all, and he kind of looks like the Question, right?
Yeah.
The 60s Batman comic books years later had him morph into Clayface. So Falseface and Clayface became the same character, which I thought was just awesome. Such a cool idea.
Yeah, maybe kind of like the chameleon. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I was about to say Catwoman, but we literally did get Catwoman. She was just a mild form of Catwoman.
Some people wanted Scarface in that world, and I think that might have been too far for some people, but it could have worked.
Crazy guy. Like, it's not that tough. Ventriloquist, Ventriloquist is probably like my top 5 as far as like animated series villains go. So,
but he's hard to do without doing stuff that is physically actually impossible. He's so comic book.
Yeah. You're not wrong. I really don't know. I don't know who, because we had Two-Face. We hit a fair bit of them.
Of the major ones, yeah.
But like it was almost like lighter versions of, in a way, because we didn't get too much of everything. It was just like a little dash and a little bit of salt and pepper and different seasonings of the different characters. Yeah, I don't know if I have one specifically.
I want to read a few of the comments here just because some of them were kind of funny. Anime 2019 says, I've never watched Star Trek. Then Mutali says, so this is Star Trekmosphere now. Cap tricked us. Yeah, sorry about that.
If only you had a Star Trekmosphere show as well.
That's true. We have actually been talking about starting one, and I've been kicking around the name Trekmosphere to go with Batmosphere, but we may call it something else. Hey, you want to know what I've been doing with Batman? I've been buying stuff. So I've got some new Batquisitions with pop figures, Dan, because whenever they put out new pop figures, I have to get them. And, oh, look, you've got your Joker pop and your Harley Quinn pop there.
I got a bunch of other pops up there.
As I'm sure you guys know, I collect all of the actual just Batman pops. If it's Batman or has bat ears, I have to have it. So I have all the Batgirls and Batmans. I'm up to 90-something, I think, and they've been putting out a ton of them for the 80th anniversary, so I've had to buy a lot this year, and I went to the mall this week, and it nearly cleared me out.
Had
to
buy
so much.
To buy.
Yeah, I know. But here's my rule with, and I mentioned this before, but you probably don't know about this. Here's my rule with collecting the pop figures. So I've been doing this for like 3 years now, a little bit longer than that, and I only buy them in the wild. I don't order them. So when I've amassed, see, I don't have the Robin because he's not a Batman, but I have that Batman. But so I have like 90 just Batmans, and when I'm kind of proud of that collection because I managed to get, I've got that. I
have 2 of these.
Yeah, and those were
exclusive, I think, to Loot Crate or something.
25 or 30 if you find them out and about now. But anyway, so I'm kind of proud of that collection because I haven't had to order any of them, and I've gotten kind of some good deals on some of the rarer ones. And there's still a few, like the Zur-En-Arr Batman is still like a $200 figure. I don't know if I'll ever get my hands on one because I'm just not going to pay that. And I've never found one in the wild. Like I would have to order it and pay that price. But anyway, so here are some of the new ones that came out this year. They've been doing some regular size ones, but also like some kind of dioramas and big special things. So this is one of my favorites now. I think this is a Jim Lee thing. It looks like it's maybe from Hush, but I haven't looked this up. I'm not actually sure what this is from. But this is Catwoman all tied up in poison ivy weeds with Batman right over, and it's so cool.
That is nuts.
Isn't it?
That is really good. I like the pop figures that are a little bit more than just like, because I have like kind of the bigger like Alduin from Skyrim and stuff. I like the ones that are a little bit bigger than the actual like small ones.
Me too. This one's kind of fun because, like, it counts because it's got bat ears, but hilariously, this is actually not a figure the same way this is because it doesn't have any articulation, but she does. She can move her head.
She can struggle, so you can be like...
And she's like... Yeah, exactly. It's awesome. So I love that. And then We have Red Sun Batman. So Superman Red Sun. This is the Batman from the Red Sun book, where he's Russian and he's got his Russian coat. And I'm a little surprised it took as long as it did for them to finally put out the Red Sun Batman. But
that's pretty cool.
Is. And then
they had that skin in one of the Arkham games.
And then meanwhile, I didn't realize they ever did that one. I don't think I ever played with that one.
Might have been Origins. It's one of them has Red Sun Batman.
And then meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It comes with the Batman. And the thing is, they've been putting out these dioramas, and
I like his eyes.
Yeah, well, here's the thing.
He's like happy Batman.
I got to check him out against my collection because I think I already have one of these. I think they just packaged this with one that they had already put out, and I didn't actually have to buy this because I only just with the rules of my collection. I know it sounds stupid when I say I have to, but just the rules of the collection. I have to get the repaints and everything. And I think, unless I don't have one where he's got his arms on his hips, but I think I do, I got to go back and look. But I thought he was, like, connected to it, like all the dioramas, and he's not. He just comes off. So this is actually more like a playset. But it's kind of fun because I can put anything on this, and I have a couple Supermans and a Lex Luthor and stuff. So it's kind of fun to display things on. So I'm not sad that I bought this. Like, I don't regret that.
I'd want that. If you ever do a stop motion thing, you can always use that as a set.
Oh, it would be awesome. Anime 2019 says I collect too many things. Agreed.
I'm a collector too.
So
I hear
Dan, are you ready for the motherload? I can't actually show you the actual thing because I haven't built it yet. Did you see my Facebook on this?
No, I didn't. I don't go on Facebook.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that. Okay. Are you ready? I did something insane.
I'm prepared.
But I didn't think they'd ever make one.
I did something insane. How many times have you said that phrase this year?
Today, probably like 9.
Today, there you go.
Dan, I bought the only Lego kit I ever needed.
Ooh.
And I bought it the day I found it, and it was too much money, and I just couldn't help it. I just gotten paid, and I was like, I can't not have this in my house.
That is huge.
3,000 piece 89 Batman.
Oh! That is awesome.
And it
oh my gosh.
Friggin' gorgeous. It comes with a rotating base.
Oh my gosh.
Like you can spin it.
That is crazy.
You should see the cockpit. It's nuts. Let's see if I can show you some more of the pictures of it. I didn't know I needed a Lego Michael Keaton Batman, but I did. And it's like the best minifig ever. I love it so much.
Oh my gosh.
That is
ridiculous.
Jason's already started working on building it. I actually haven't put any of the pieces together for this at all yet, but
that is crazy.
I've got it set up over there and ready to.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. See, I had the Tumblr a while back, but then it got destroyed because of the nature of my job, and I worked with a bunch of idiots. But
no. Sorry to hear that.
No, I think I messed it up myself too.
I wanted that font real bad too. Apparently, it was smaller than this one.
Yeah, that one looks bigger. The Tumblr was probably about this big. It wasn't like gigantic. That looks pretty sizable.
Was it like 1,800, 2,000 pieces maybe?
Oh, I can't even remember. It was a lot of pieces.
Like
it took me a couple sessions.
And I never I've seen that one at the Lego store when it was on display, but I've never interacted with one. The guy I talked to when I bought this that works there said that the problem with the Tumblr was the pieces fell apart real easy. He said if you looked at it wrong, it fell apart. And I was wondering if you had that experience with it.
Well, that's what, I think we were filming a video once, and I tried to ramp it off something, and it just when it landed, some pieces came off, and it was kind of intricate in the way that I would have had to go back and repair it, and then I think I just ended up taking it apart.
See, I'm super excited to get this set up, and I've got space for it now. Like, I don't think I would have bought it as quick if I was still in my old house. Because, like, where would I put it and where would I build it? When I did the Technodrome a couple years ago, the Mega Bloks Ninja Turtles Technodrome, which is also 3,000 pieces. It's the same size as this.
My goodness.
I've got it in the bunker now, and it doesn't feel like it's taking up much space, or any space, because I have a lot more space now. But that thing, we had to use our dining room table to build it, and we couldn't eat there for 6 months, because we just had it all laid out. And Mega Bloks, I'll mention this real quick. We are taking too long on this segment. I'll mention this real quick. Mega Bloks, they don't seem to do their big sets the same way Lego does. So Lego has their big sets in numbered bags, so you don't have to lay all the stuff out. You do one bag at a time.
Mega Bloks makes it so you have to do it all at once?
It took me 3 days to sort all the pieces. just so that I can find the pieces, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to find them. So it's like doing a jigsaw puzzle, and I didn't need that. It took way too long, and like it wouldn't have taken 6 months. A lot of that time I wasn't actually working on it, but it was hard to want to sit down and do it because it was kind of tedious. And this is not that way. It's one bag at a time, and so we're working on it just on a little card table, and you don't need any more space than that. Unless it ends up being big enough that it's bigger than that card table. But I don't think it is. I think that'll actually be enough surface. But anyway, it'll be fun to show that to everybody when we get it done. Mr. Roboto, the giant penny, yet to arrive, Two-Face figure to follow. I want a giant penny so bad. People keep asking when I'm going to put one in the bunker, because again, I've got the space for it now. I can't find one. I can't, even for like an inordinate sum I couldn't afford. Nobody makes one. I've not found a giant penny.
You gotta start your own project where you make your own giant penny.
Oh man, I'm just not that crafty, Dan. That would be the second only Lego set I ever needed. If they made
just get some chicken wire, paper mache. It's not that tough. I think you could do it. Just shape it like a penny and then paint it, and then I think you could do it.
Like a giant dinosaur is way easier to find. And I still want one of those too, but
pennies are on their way out.
I need one, Dan.
I have to get it.
Dan, let's go on now to Bat News. We're going to shake up the order a little bit. And Dan, what do you want to talk about first? Not a whole lot going on, but we had a couple things we want to talk about.
Yeah, most of my, all the stuff that I had pulled out was all regards to the Batman movie. I think a lot of the major news is going to be in regards to Matt Reeves' The Batman movie, especially as casting is kind of rounding off. I think they're shooting early next year, I believe. I don't know exactly.
1 sec, sorry. But Rageaholic, how big are they? Rageaholic says they do sell novelty giant pennies. Yes, but how giant is giant?
Is it like this big, or is it as big as the wall back there? I mean, how would you get it into your house, actually?
I mean, it's not going to be any bigger than most of my furniture, I wouldn't think, right? Like, I'm not going to find a 9-foot giant penny.
You got to make it in that room, so that way it's as large as the wall back there. I want it covering up the back wall. And
then I'm either never allowed to move, or we have to build it in such a way where it's in like 4 pieces.
Segments. You have to build,
But I mean, I've got a pretty big stairwell, so as long as it's not like 12 feet tall, I could probably get it down here.
Yeah, make it about the size of a tall person, like 7-8 feet, maybe, as long as it goes through the door frame. Measure the door frame.
It's tall. It's a tall person, like 8 feet, because there's so many of those walking around.
Hey, Chewbacca is real in my dreams. So as far as Batman news, yeah, he's pretty tall. Batman news: Peter Sarsgaard was cast in Matt Reeves' The Batman.
We don't know as whom yet, but a lot of people are speculating.
Two-Face.
Two-Face, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it for sure. I mean, I think people are just looking at these castings. It's like Jonah Hill, Penguin, clearly. Like, they're just kind of like, you see the person and you're like, okay, I'm going to put that to that. I mean, he might just be playing random Joe Schmo guy. I remember when Scoot McNairy was cast in Batman v Superman, everybody was like, oh, what villain is he playing? And then he was guy in wheelchair who blows up the Senate. That's not really a character that exists in Batman before that point. So I like, he could just be playing random guy or like a certain character.
Yeah, just because you've heard of the actor doesn't mean they're playing anybody you've heard of, and it also doesn't mean that they might not be playing a somewhat important role that is a character that you haven't heard of, or that isn't a costumed character or something. Like, he could be a major mob boss, but he might not be in a costume, right? Like, he seems like an actor that you might go to for random mob boss guy or major mob boss or politician. But I think one of the reasons people are assuming heavy-hitting character you've heard of is because he played the villain of Green Lantern.
That's true. Oh man, I forgot about that.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. But I'm just saying that, like, precedent for him in a DC movie playing a major Green Lantern villain you've heard of. So
his hair in that movie, man, you just took me back. I completely like blanked Green Lantern out of my brain. Like, whenever I see Taika Waititi, that's the last thing I think of. Yeah, that is weird. Well, I remember seeing him in Jarhead. I think that was the first thing I'd ever seen him in where I was like, oh dang, like. I really like his character. Was probably one of the best characters in that movie. Well, he's married to Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Really I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's married to Rachel Dawes. So maybe he is Harvey Dent. Oh my gosh! Wouldn't that be amazing?
Wow, when we buried the lead there, I don't know why we didn't just immediately assume it because of that. No, that's got to be what it is. Because why would you waste that opportunity?
So he's walking around and saying, "I make my own luck," and he's flipping his coin, and she's like, "Quit being annoying, Peter." Just on a Sunday. That's interesting.
He just wakes up in the morning and goes, "Rachel!"
Yeah. Somebody said looks about right for Riddler. We already have Paul Dano will be playing the Riddler.
Yep. And we know for sure he's the Riddler. That's the thing, is that some of the casting, we know who they're playing. And it's not speculation like the major costume characters, and we know they're playing them, but other characters we don't. So we know who Catwoman is, we know who Riddler is. We know Penguin at this point.
And we know. I don't know if we've done a show since it's been officially announced that Andy Serkis is playing Alfred.
Oh no, we haven't talked about that.
Yeah, I'm so down for Andy Serkis being Alfred. I think that's really great casting.
What show I'm on when I'm talking about things? There's so much spillover. Because when major stuff like this happens, I have to talk about it on the Captain Logan show. And I think I've already done that on that show. But anyway, that's awesome casting. Somebody on a show the other day asked me if I thought that it was that role was beneath him, which I was very confused about that question.
He's been a supporting character in so many movies. He was the cook in King Kong, as well as King Kong.
And then you look at the actors who have played Alfred the last 2 times, and it wasn't beneath them, and they've had bigger careers.
I think Alfred
at
is
least
the
being
prestige role.
CG suit, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Alfred is the prestige role of those movies. Alfred, Commissioner Gordon, those are the roles that you kind of get to do.
As long as you get any screen time. See, I think it's unlikely that somebody would have asked, and I don't mean to throw this guy under the bus. I was just really surprised by that question, because that makes me wonder if other people have thought that, and I'm like, I bet back in the Dark Knight days you wouldn't think to ask that question, but the last person who got to play it didn't get to play it for any amount of time.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
And the same is true of Commissioner Gordon. So we got great A-list kind of actors.
Oh gosh.
And
that was they were putting the cart before the horse, though. They were putting the cart before the horse because they were planning on making the Ben Affleck movie, and because that's what all J.K. Simmons ever talked about was, well, we're doing this to set up the character, and then I'll get to do more in the Ben Affleck movie, and then that never happened. So, yeah.
Which I think is why a lot of people were hoping that we would hang on to him for this new movie, but I'm glad we're not doing that because it's too distracting.
Wouldn't make sense.
It wouldn't make sense, and I've heard people say, well, because not that this is a period piece, but there's a little bit of precedent here and there where, because ironically, this is an actor we've been talking about. We took J.K. Simmons and we put him back in the same role with Spider-Man in the end of the last Spider-Man movie.
That works more there, though. I feel.
Yeah, I think so too. And I still feel a little bit weird even about that. I get why people wanted that, but it's it's a totally other continuity, and it's a different style, and it feels, and to be fair, he's playing it, I mean, he's not actually playing it differently, but he's in a different setting, and they're treating him like he's a different character. But with this, it's there's already going to be so much baggage from the old DCEU. I've been talking about this a whole lot. That's going to confuse people enough with actors that are continuing to play characters in a franchise that we've already kind of soft rebooted, and then that would just add insult to injury, right? If it was well, this guy was great. Let's keep going with him. And it's, yeah, I know he was, but at least he's got cool things to do on Watchmen.
Oh, who? J.K. Simmons?
No, not J.K. They were talking about the guy that played Alfred. I can't.
Jeremy Irons.
Jeremy Irons, yeah.
I haven't. I need to catch up on Watchmen. I haven't watched an episode.
Freaking horrifying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I don't have my HBO subscription anymore. I'll have to do the free trial for that and watch all the episodes and then forget I paid for it and then pay for a whole month. Yeah, has it been confirmed that the Pattinson Batman takes place in the 90s? That's what I had heard when they were developing it. I
thought it was another 80s period piece, but maybe it is 90s.
I thought they had said 90s. And a lot of people were like, oh, maybe it'll line up with the Joker movie and all that stuff. Where they could, it's not gonna, which I'm absolutely fine with. Because, I would rather see, how long till they put a Joker in that series, though, do you think? Do you think it'd be... Like, because I feel like we're getting all jokered out, like the amount of Jokers we've had in the last,
Well, and I keep
5
hearing
years.
a lot of people saying like Joker fatigue and they're really tired of that character, and I figured that would probably come up at some point in the show when we talk about it. But I'm of two minds about it, because it really depends on what stylistically they would want to do with more Joker if they continue with that, because it made $1 billion. There's been a lot of rumor, and maybe more than rumor, that Warner Brothers is trying really hard to get another movie made. And I keep saying I don't want to see a sequel to that movie. I want to see, if we have to do it, I want to see that Joker in something else. And if they line up timeline-wise, depending on tonally how you did it, maybe it would be okay, but the problem with it for a lot of people is going to be, but this Joker is not a mastermind. He's not a super genius, and that's tough, or at least he's not brilliant at anything. And
you don't think he couldn't grow into it? He seems definitely way more self-aware. Like, he seems completely self-aware by the very end of the movie.
Well, no, he could, but he doesn't seem to have the skill set to go up against a Batman, especially like a World's Greatest Detective Batman, which is what we're supposed to get with that movie, where he's not just going to be a guy who's great at hand-to-hand and learns how to do detective work on the job like Nolan's Batman did. I mean, this is going to be a Batman that trained not just with ninjas, but also with detectives, right? And I don't see that Joker outsmarting that Batman, and I also don't see him winning in a hand-to-hand, fight. So like, all he has going for him,
he would run away.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, or he would dance around on the stairs until Batman showed up at the stairs, and then he'd like slip and fall on his face, and then he'd run off.
Alfred, run a scan of all the staircases in Gotham.
He's got to be on stairs. And do a scan for that song that was in that scene, because I can't remember the name of it. But that song turned me off at that moment. Yeah, it makes you want to see that Joker watch a basketball game.
Start dunking.
But so I don't know. A lot of people have said you kind of need a different Batman, like probably as unusual of a Batman as that was of a Joker. You know what I mean? Like, not a conventional Batman.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd almost rather see a new one. But if they're going to make the Joker thing a franchise and make sequels to that, we'd have the Joaquin Joker. We have the Harley Quinn Birds of Prey movie coming out, which I don't know if Jared Leto's even going to be in that. Like, maybe. It's called The Emancipation of Harley Quinn or whatever.
I think we know pretty sure he's not in it. And I don't think he would be as pissed off about the Joker if he had gotten to appear in that movie, even in a cameo. I would be really surprised if he was there. I think it's a lot more likely if you get a glimpse of the Joker, it's just like Purple Pants walking away or something. I don't
Purple Pants.
I don't think you're gonna actually see somebody playing the Joker, or it's gonna be just like the back of his head or something.
I would read in
a really traditional looking Joker suit, right? Like,
yeah. I would read a fictional autobiography of the Joker called Purple Pants.
That's great. I have nothing to add. That's great.
I'll get working on it now. I'll start writing it from the Joker's perspective.
But anyway, any other news we want to tackle?
Yeah. So speaking along with the whole Batman Matt Reeves movie, Robert Pattinson last month was talking, I think, to MTV about how he doesn't want. He's with him taking on this Batman role. He doesn't want the same level of like fame and attention that came along with Twilight. He's hoping he doesn't get that level of fandom coming around, and everybody was like immediately like,
then you took the wrong project there, buddy boy. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. That would have been like if Ben Affleck had said that, where it's like, man, I just don't want as many people to be talking about me after I put on tights again. Yeah, it's going to happen. Now, I mean, I feel bad for Affleck because he ended up in the same place twice because, he got dogged on real hard after Daredevil, and obviously BVS wasn't a success. Interestingly, his portrayal in that wasn't made fun of like in Daredevil. Isn't that weird?
He was a lot of people, he was the highlight of that movie for Batman v
exactly
Superman.
Right. And I mean, he deserved it. But I don't think he's bad in Daredevil either. But like, weirdly, he kind of turned his reputation around for comic fans in a movie most people hated. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
But like you don't take out Batman and not like, I get it. He wants to focus on the role and he wants to probably make it his own and do his thing. But like, you got some very rabid fans behind you when any Batman that comes around.
He's saying a lot of generic things that strike me as a little bit out of touch. He also did an interview where he said that he's liked every portrayal of Batman on screen and, like, wants to, you know, just live up to them and stuff. And it was just a really generic thing to say. Like, he was trying to sound like he's a Batman fan, but, like, I don't even know if he's seen it all, just the way he was talking, because he was so generic and vague in what he was saying.
Well, I've heard him talk about Batman in the past where he was saying, like, when it came to any of the Superman roles, the only one he would even consider was Batman. And he did want to be Batman.
That doesn't mean he knows anything about Batman.
Yeah, but it make it seem like, well, he's talking about how he's not a big Marvel fan. He's more of a DC guy. And so it made it seem like he caught up. But I mean, I don't know. I don't hang out with him, so I don't really know what he's really
and like I
done
don't
either
mean
way.
to be a prude about it. Like whatever. He's an actor. He doesn't necessarily have to know the character to play it well when he's got a good script. But he just sounds to me like he's trying to sound knowledgeable, and I don't think he probably really knows a lot about the character because he's just saying things again that sound kind of vague. Where he's like, Batman doesn't count as a superhero because he doesn't have superpowers.
Yeah,
and like what's kind of like the thing that's cool about playing him to him is that he's not a standard superhero, even though he's the most popular superhero that has ever existed, whether you think he counts or not. And like everybody knows what Batman is, and it's kind of funny to me where it's like, well, I'm gonna do something different, and I'm like, well, I hope it's different for Batman, but Batman's like the only superhero that you could get made for the longest time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. He just sounded a little bit out of touch to me.
Pattinson's a weird dude. He's a weird cat. I've seen interviews with him where because usually when he's doing press junkets and stuff, he'll start just like making up things to answers to questions he gets repeatedly, and then at points like he talks about how he convinces himself that the things he said that aren't real are really true, and he's like he's a
like
strange
Tommy
guy.
Wiseau or something.
I know, right? If everybody loved each other, the world would be a better place. Have you seen The Lighthouse? Because I haven't really seen anything that he's done outside of the Twilight movies, and I know a lot of people have said there's a handful of good movies that he's done post that have been really good. I've only heard like about his great performances in those, but I haven't seen them. I went and saw The Lighthouse with him and Willem Dafoe, and that movie is like a crazy fever dream of two guys stuck on this island in a lighthouse by themselves, where they're slowly going crazy. Oh, the atmosphere. There we go. Now we're good. Now it's the Batmosphere.
No, that's really interesting. I'll have to take a look at that.
His performance in it is really good. I thought he was great in it. And it's it's very good. And I could see in that just kind of some of the insanity of Bruce Wayne a little bit. Like, I don't know if they're really going that side of it when it comes around to Matt Reeves' Batman, but I can see him playing this guy who is not mentally in the right spot, but trying to whatever, like the Batman stuff. I could see shades of it in there. Plus he grows a mean mustache, but that has nothing to do with Batman.
That sounds like a neat concept, though. I should definitely take a look at that movie.
Oh yeah, rest in peace, Renee.
Renee Auberjonois passed away today at 79 years old. Yeah. Odo from Deep Space Nine. One of my favorite actors. Really sad to hear that he went. This has nothing to do with Batman, although he wasn't Batman Forever. Yeah. So
yeah. Oh no, he was in Batman Forever and Rage and Holic, also voice of Dr. March in Batman the animated series.
Yeah, and I think he was a couple other things here and there too. Oh yeah, he's in I don't know why I remember this. He's one of the Cadmus doctors. He's like the main Cadmus doctor in the first episode of Young Justice.
Oh wow.
There's the thing I know. He did a lot of voice work.
Yeah.
He also
he had a really good voice.
Hilariously in a like late 70s, early 80s record, like storybook record, voiced Spider-Man. And he sounds like a middle-aged Spider-Man playing a teenage Spider-Man, and it's hilarious.
I don't know.
That's exactly what it sounds like.
Jameson.
Yeah, it sounds like J. Jonah Jameson pretending to be Spider-Man. Actually, is what it sounds like. And Eric and I found it on YouTube and listened to it in the car one day, and we were going to talk about it on a video, and we never got around to it. But yeah, it's hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
That is probably not what I should do to celebrate the life of Renee Auberjonois, but I would love to talk about that at some point. I met Renee Auberjonois a couple times, I think, and I've got a couple signed things from him. And one of the things that I had him sign was a plastic ice cream bucket, because because Odo always went in a bucket.
He
And
slept in a bucket.
He just gave me this look and was not amused about it at all. And
oh, really?
Yeah,
what?
It was really funny.
Oh.
Yeah, he was a little crotchety, but that was part of his charm. Yeah.
How many buckets do you think he had to sign?
It's a good question. I'm sure most of them weren't ice cream buckets, though. I thought that would be really funny. I thought just paying to make a man sign an ice cream bucket was a really funny thing to do.
That's pretty great.
2000s. I was less mature then, but I would do that now. Okay, so what else? Any more news, or should we move on?
I think that's all I had lined up for news, unless you had some other stuff.
The only stuff I had was stuff about Pattinson, which we've already discussed. So let's move on now to definitive version, and we're going to figure out through a therapy session what my favorite version of the Joker is, and we're going to find out Dan's as well. Dan, why don't you start us off? So should I just make the assumption that your definitive version, and let's also, as always, stop for a second and just mention what we mean by this. Definitive version is it is our favorite, but it's what we think is like the quintessential version of the character. And I'm gonna assume that you're gonna say Hamill.
Yeah, well, the thing was, everybody's always like, because I'm a Batman fan and I've been on the internet for quite a long time, people always ask me who my favorite Joker is. And I've always kind of classified it as, if you're talking about on-screen live-action Jokers, Heath Ledger. If you're talking about animated or anything, Hamill hands down. But like, the more I've thought about it, there's just so much more. Hamill, throughout his tenure of playing the Joker, it's like he's been playing the Joker since the 90s. He's played so many different versions of the Joker. He's done the cartoon series. Even within the cartoon series, he's played like cartoons,
it's different.
Different versions of the Joker.
It's different, which started that precedent for the Joker. One of the big precedents, of course, this was in the comics some too, for the Joker is really it's hard to call what he's going to do, and he's unpredictable, and he can be different from minute to minute, which is what makes him scary.
Yeah. Because like Hamill gets to play all the shades. He gets to be scary. He gets to be hilarious. He gets to be menacing. Just all the different variations and synonyms of scary and funny. But like, he gets to play every single shade. And in the Arkham games, which is one of my favorite portrayals that he's done of the Joker, period, he gets to be a lot darker. It's like the animated series, but more adult. Like, he gets to go full on be super scary Joker, where he's doing these horrific things that they wouldn't have allowed him to do on the animated series. They always had to kind of skirt around because of censors, or it's the show for children and all that stuff. This was a series that was able to the Arkham series, it was rated T for teen, and even in Arkham Knight, that was a rated M game. They were able to go full on. We got to see some really dark stuff with him. And he just brings all those shades to life. Like, it blew my mind when I found out that Luke Skywalker was the Joker when I was younger, because he completely transforms for that role, and he doesn't sound like Mark Hamill. He has this amazing Joker voice. Like, he has like this amazing, great, just voice acting performance that brings this animation to life. Like, I don't think he ever has, but it'd be kind of nuts to see him in a live action scenario. I don't know, I know they've announced pretty much everything for the Crisis on Infinite Earths thing.
I wanted to talk about that because I have a theory about this. You said, I just thought of this today, and I'm going to be bummed out if they don't do it, and I'm going to be kind of surprised if they don't. So he's been playing the Trickster on Flash, and he's the Trickster going back to the 90s show. I don't know if you know that. Yep. They brought him back to be like a legacy villain, so there's like another Trickster, and he's the old one, and then this other guy like tries to take the mantle, and it pisses him off, and and he comes in and he like pretends like he's training him, but it's great. But he's in it like 2, 3, 4 times, so they keep bringing him back. And I'm wondering how much they're actually keeping under their hat, because they just keep announcing things.
I know.
Also, some of what I thought they'd announced were actually leaks that they didn't want anybody to know about. Like, apparently, I think we talked about this a show or two ago, but apparently the Alexander Knox thing was not supposed to be revealed. They didn't do that on purpose. It came out. There was a picture of a newspaper on set, and then we found out that he was in it. And people, and I think the CW was probably not happy about that, because that was such an unusual, cool, deep pull for them to go to. And I'm wondering if maybe they've managed to keep Hamill under their hats, because since he's been in Flash, and there's Flash and Legends, maybe, I forget. There's obviously precedent, and he likes them, and he's worked with them before. And Conroy is going to be Batman for the first time in live action. How do you not take the opportunity to do that?
I know.
And I would think if Conroy is only in one scene, I'm hoping he gets more to do. But if Conroy is, as I suspect, going to be in 40 seconds of that show, you would think that what you want to do is just have a duke out fight with him and the Joker, and you know, cut to it and cut away, and that's what
some sort of confrontation.
Yeah, and so if they've managed to keep that under their hats this whole time, and maybe using Conroy as a little bit of not a red herring, but just to cover it up, where it's like, because I don't know why until today I didn't even think of that, and I think it was just because I was so excited about getting to see Conroy finally play it in live action. And I'm sure other people have thought of this, but I didn't hear anybody mention it, where it's like, well, wait a minute, if Conroy's there, why isn't Hamill Joker? He's been the trickster. So I think we might get to see it. I think it's possible. That starts tonight. I'm going to be watching it each day in real time because I'm so excited about it, and I didn't think I would be as stoked as I am. But Arrow and Flash have both been way better this year than they have in a long time.
Nice.
And I think there's potential for greatness relative to the CW. I really
Here's
do.
hoping.
And so I'm gonna talk about it when it's done. If there's enough stuff to sink my teeth into, by the way, because we're gonna get kind of a mid-season for Crisis. I don't know if you know about this, but it's 5 episodes. They're gonna do 3, and then they're not gonna do the other 2 until after Christmas break. So they're gonna have like a big
cliffhanger
in the middle of their miniseries, which I think is a cool thing if the cliffhanger is good. So I might actually do 2 videos on it and do a spoiler cast on the first 3 and then one on the last 2.
Do it.
I agree. Might be worth it. But anyway, are you planning on watching that? Because if you do, we should talk about it together, because I don't have anybody to talk to about it.
I mean, I wouldn't know what is going on with anything because I have not been watching any of the shows, but they have me interested. They're doing exactly what they want to do, where it's like they want to bring in the casual DC fans who aren't following any of this stuff just to watch this miniseries, which or like this section, is this like its own event series, or is it
so they've done this
one of the shows?
They did the same thing with Crisis on Earth X, and they kind of did this with Elseworlds last year, where they treat it as its own miniseries that you can kind of watch, and on the CW website they will put it out in both places where you can just watch these, but it takes slots of the other shows.
Okay.
But you can't really tell what show you're watching. Like, it won't matter that it's Batwoman, because it'll just be all of it. And that's what they did with Earth X, and I thought that was kind of cool. So I'm sure they'll do it exactly the same way. Like, they have it listed right now on the CW's website like it's its own show, and you can just go click on that and see trailers and things, and then they'll have the episodes there also, which I think is a really cool layout.
Oh, nice.
But
I mean, if you don't mind having
with as much press as they've been given that and trying to get everybody and his dog to watch it, it's got to be as followable as they can make it. Even though there has been a lot of lead up this season in both Arrow and Flash. So because I know what's going on with the shows that have been dealing with Crisis, it's hard for me to say you'll be fine, but I think you probably will be fine. And I can give you a really quick crash course. Like, I can tell you the 3 or 4 major things that you should know about Like, you should know that both Oliver and Barry have been told by the Monitor that they will die and there's no hope that they'll survive it. Like, that's important. There's things like that. But it's kind of weird because both of those shows have kind of been, in some ways, kind of the same character arc for both of those characters. Because both of them are supposed to die.
Neither can live while the other survives.
Even though it's for slightly different reasons. It's like Flash has to die for the rest of the universe to survive. With Oliver, it seems to just be, you're dying. there's no...
His city. Yeah.
I mean, Rachel Hollick, but maybe not the same level. Anyway.
Yeah. Rachel Hollick earlier in the chat said, Hamill is a great iteration, but I don't think Hamill, or for the matter, the animated series, happens without the Burton film and Jack Nicholson. Oh, you're absolutely right, but that doesn't mean it can't be the definitive version, just because it was inspired by a different thing.
Oh, that's the segment we're doing. That's right. Well, I think it's important to note that to go back to a point you made earlier, Dan, Mark Hamill is not a version of the Joker. Mark Hamill has done a number of versions of the Joker. So if we're saying definitive version, like, we're not talking about actors who have portrayed the Joker. We're talking about best portrayal, because you could go to comics and stuff too. So I think if you pick Hamill, you actually have to pick a particular version of Hamill.
I mean, probably Arkham then.
As
like, I would say Arkham.
I think I also land on Arkham Hamill, which is crazy, but like, it's almost like the fulfillment of everything he was having to rein in and hold back in the animated series, which was wonderfully held back. Like, you get a lot of really creative stuff out of that kind of minimalism and censorship, where like when you're not allowed to go the full 9 yards, you have to get more creative. And I think a lot of really cool stuff happened with that character, and a lot of great ideas came out of it being a children's show and them not being allowed to go too far. But then when he was allowed to do anything he wanted to, the guy they had writing it was Paul Dini, and so it was fine that it wasn't reined in, because he knew what to do with actual psychopathic, really killing people, occasionally swearing Joker. And he's just fantastic. I think that probably is my definitive take, but that character is so different in different things, and he's as versatile as Batman. What I love about the mirror thing with Joker and Batman is the versatility. Like, in the same way that there are 850 different valid ways to do Batman, the same is also true of the Joker. And so when you're comparing them, like, it's as hard as saying you're definitive Batman, because you almost have to say, like, well, what flavor are we talking about? You know what I mean? It's like comparing McDonald's and Burger King. Like, sometimes I'm in the mood for a crappy hamburger, and sometimes I'm in the mood for a different kind of crappy hamburger. And with I think
Batman's a crappy hamburger.
Yeah, he's crappy. Yeah, if we have to do a food metaphor, Batman is a crappy hamburger. But with with the Joker, it's like, what kind of Joker are we talking about? Because in some ways, Heath Ledger is not that far away from the Arkham Joker, and in some ways, he absolutely is. And it's hard to put those two things up against each other, right? And like, I love what Phoenix did with it, especially just performance-wise. But like, I wouldn't put it up above those two, but there's a lot of other Jokers I wouldn't put above Phoenix, I don't think. So, I mean, like, there's a lot of good ones. The thing that Hamill has above everybody is that, especially in voice work, everybody is compared to Hamill. Am I right in saying that? I think everybody gets compared to Hamill. I think live action, it is also Ledger, but I think even with Ledger, everybody's compared to Hamill.
I mean, I don't really know. Like, whenever I read anything, or like even online, I've seen more so everybody compares it to either Nicholson or Ledger in everything that I've ever read. Just because those are the two more prominent versions, and I feel like the sites I read and I feel like the animated series is more well regarded now and all that stuff, but I feel like a lot of people kind of don't talk about the animated series as much as the movies when it comes to the hardcore fandom of the films in particular. I
think that's just because Ledger was such a phenomenon, and because everybody on YouTube wanted to be him.
That's true. Everybody had an impression, and
it was almost a cult-like following. It was kind of creepy. It's a little off. What was going on there, and I think a lot of people expected that with Phoenix's Joker, and I don't think we've seen that as much. As popular as that is, I've not seen as many people dressing up as him.
Oh, for sure. Well, it's a little bit more complicated, and also, just like you said, not as popular. Like, his take was off-putting. I mean, not that the Joker can't be off-putting. Yes, not that the Joker shouldn't be off-putting, but because like I would say Joaquin's Joker's also off-putting, but he's also magnetic to watch.
Is that I think you're talking about Joaquin's. Right?
No, I'm talking about Jared Leto's. I'm talking about Jared Leto's. Are you saying you? I thought you were saying.
I thought you said Ledger. Who are we talking about at this point?
I don't know. We're talking about the Joker, and that's our topic today on the Batmosphere.
No, I thought the point you were making was that fewer people wanted to dress up like Phoenix because he was more off-putting than Ledger. That's what I thought you were saying.
Oh, no. I thought we were talking about Leto, so that's why I got confused.
Oh, no. Leto never came up. We were still talking about Ledger and Phoenix. Leto never came into the equation. No, not as many people were dressing up as Leto, because as you said, that was too complicated. But what I'm saying is, Phoenix's movie made $1 billion, and it did not have the cult effect on people and on YouTube people like Ledger's did. And I think that's really interesting. That, like, after 2008, everybody and his dog was dressing up like Ledger's Joker, but you haven't had that with Phoenix. Like, there's some, but it's not that phenomenon like it was, even though it made as much money as it did.
I would say not that, like, I think people aesthetically liked Ledger's look more than Phoenix. Not that, like, I liked Phoenix's look. I liked the diamonds and the tear and all that stuff. But Ledger's was just so iconic. Not that Phoenix's won't be, because I feel like there is plenty of iconic stuff that left that movie. People leave that movie, again, staircase dancing. Lots of stretch dancing. Oh, I'm knocking things over. But Leto's darn it, I just keep going back to Leto. Ledger's.
No one ever brought up Leto.
Yeah, I know. No, poor Leto. I was talking about Jared Leto maybe at one point earlier. Ledger's is just literally so iconic and such a visually interesting look. Like, I love that suit. I love his makeup, his hair, that kind of like green tinged, like ratty hair that he had and all that stuff. Like, it was just so perfect visually and stylistically.
See, I think Phoenix
for that character
really intense and fascinating, and obviously that transformation is really interesting and fun to watch. But my theory is the reason not as many people are wanting to be like, you dress up as him. Why do you dress up like him? I think fewer people are wanting to dress up like him and act like him, because again, you had this cult thing with Ledger. You had people who seem to kind of, in a creepy way, want to be that character. I think it's because he looks like more fun to play. I think if you look at Phoenix, like, that looks hard. That doesn't look fun to play. And in places, it's fun to watch in like a real kind of messed up kind of way. And Ledger's is sometimes messed up too, but he's genuinely funny. Like, you're laughing at him as often as you're repelled by him. And that's not like, Phoenix is in pain, and he makes me in pain, and that's the point. It works.
Yeah, he's tragic.
That's
not
and Ledger's is not tragic. He's a force of nature. Phoenix is not the dog chasing cars. It's different. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
And I think the dog chasing cars is more fun to play because it feels liberating.
For sure.
So anyway,
you hit it on the head.
That just became a comparison contrast thing. But yeah, I don't know. But I think you and I are both in agreement. I don't know. I think definitive version, at least outside of comics, is probably Arkham Asylum, Arkham City,
Arkham Knight. And let's not talk about Arkham Origins.
Well, because in Knight, he's dead.
Knight, yeah, but they tackled the dichotomy.
Whatever,
they tackled the dichotomy of Batman and the Joker in Arkham Knight. Like, the
whole thematically it's there, but the character's not actually there.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's inside Batman.
Yeah.
And Batman's trying not to become him. Like, that's the whole. Like, all I think about is that whole sequence where Batman literally has to lock up Joker inside his mind and come to terms with the fact that the Joker is now a part of him, but he will not let that side of his personality define him. Like, there is some really great stuff there.
And that's a good point. I wonder how different that game would have been if the Batman Who Laughs had existed.
Oh yeah.
At that point.
Well, I mean, there's shades at points within Arkham Knight. Yeah, he gets taken over by the Joker.
I think my favorite moment in that whole game is when Batman starts looking around and all the guards that are circling him in that room have all turned into the Joker. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Oh gosh, the part where that it's shortly after that same part where, again, there's another part where they're all the Jokers and like they kind of pull back and you see the green eyes. Batman has the green eyes, and then they pull back and he has the gun in his hand and he's about to like shoot Scarecrow, and it's like Batman facing all of his fears. Your fears, Batman.
Ridgeholic says Joker was a bit overused. That was good. That was lovely. It was a bit overused in the Arkham series. There was no reason at all to wedge him into Origins, but they did it anyway. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. No, you're preaching to the choir here. Yeah, no, exactly. And, like, not that I think what's his name? Troy Baker, who did the voice, who's kind of doing his own thing / Mark Hamill impression. He does a great job. But yeah, I was very upset that they marketed it as Black Mask and then Oh wait, no, it's the Joker. The Joker was the Black Mask, actually.
What's nuts is Baker does 2 or 3 different versions of the Joker, and like Hamill's are
he's really great too.
Hamill's are all modifications of the thing he did in the first place. Hamill never does a thing where you can't tell it's Hamill. Troy Baker does his version of Hamill, and then he has like a whole other Joker voice he does that doesn't sound anything like that. And
he's insane.
He's done it in the Lego movies, and he's now, I can't remember which thing it is. I talked about this a couple weeks ago.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He does the voice of Batman and
Batman
the Joker.
And the Joker. Unprecedented. That's never happened before, and it was and you can't tell.
Like, I know. Well, see, the thing is, Troy Baker did the voice of Two-Face and Robin in the Arkham games, and he also was Batman in Telltale's Batman, and he was Batman and Joker in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and like you said, the
Batman and everything he does either. Like
he's great. He's very versatile.
He's got that real old school animation way of modulating his voice, where he can do like 1900 different voices, and you can never tell it's him.
Yeah, no, he's a pretty big video game voice actor. I met him once, and it's when I had this Joker and Batman tattoo, and I was like, oh look, you're on my arm when I met him, and that was to the Joker, and because he hadn't voiced Batman by that point, but now at this point he's on my arm twice.
Was it Baker who voiced him in? I'm talking about the Joker who voiced him in Red Hood. Is that the first time he did it? Or was
I think that's before he started. That was no, I don't believe so.
Who was that? It's somebody.
That was John DiMaggio.
Oh, that was DiMaggio. That's right. Yeah, and I like his a lot too. Yeah. He's got a much tougher, more kind of mob boss Joker, and it's great.
It's kind of like what is it? The Batman animated series. Where was that guy? The Rada guy from what's it called? You're on my arm. Dan's News 2019.
Yeah,
well,
I was going to mention that comment. Yeah.
I think it was like 2015 or something. I did say you're on my arm. I got a picture with him way back in the day. Yeah, John DiMaggio was good. But yeah, you again, just like you said, with Batman, you have infinite versions and versatility with the character that you could do so many different things.
Yeah, I just think that makes Batman and the Joker the most difficult characters probably to pick the definitive version of. Batman's maybe a little easier than the Joker, actually, but I don't know. That's a tough call. But it's kind of funny that I'm saying that, and yet we both land on the same one, because, I mean, I feel remiss this entire time I've never brought up Nicholson, who I also, of course, really love, and was, I think, for a lot of people, the last word on the Joker for a lot of years, especially anybody that loved that movie but didn't bother with the animated series. Because I think a lot of people through the 90s assumed that it was just going to be just a lesser version of that movie. And of course, that show only exists because of that movie and uses the same theme and has, borrows at least things about its art style from that, although it's looking at Fleischer a lot more. But I think for the longest time, a lot of people were saying, like, well, there's no point in doing the Joker after Nicholson. But you have another, you have another group of fans that come after me, another generation that looked at Nicholson and didn't see the Joker in him and just saw Nicholson because they grew up with Mark Hamill's Joker, and that's an actor that disappeared. And if you go look at anything else in Nicholson, you're like, oh, so he's like the Joker, but he's not wearing makeup. And I like he's acting more over the top, and I mean, I think he's wonderful, but he's one of those actors that was like naturally the right pick because he already kind of acts like that, as opposed to he can do this performance. Like Nicholson didn't have to do that much. He just puts on the makeup and acts a little crazier than normal, and poof, you're the Joker. But yeah, so I mean, like, I can't believe we had this entire conversation. I never mentioned him, but I don't think of him on a definitive list anymore. He's probably in my top 3 of, like, favorites, and, like, I enjoy watching him, but he doesn't rank anywhere near as high as he once did as far as definitive now.
Yeah. Also, shout out to Cesar Romero and his amazing mustache.
Romero's great, and like Nicholson's performance isn't, and I mean, I say Nicholson's pretty much just doing Nicholson. His laugh is patently based on Romero. And it's weird because, like, he was old enough, he probably could have also played it in the 60s. Because I think he was in his 20s at that point. Yeah,
he was acting back in the 60s.
I have heard rumors that he tried out for that role, but I don't know if that's true. I don't think
that would have been kind of weird.
True, but I've heard rumors about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I enjoy seeing him a lot. Rageaholic says Nicholson did a great job. It's like DeVito as Penguin. They were cast because of who they already were. Yeah, precisely. They just didn't have to do that much. And I think that tends to be what we did. That tended to be what we did with the villains back then. Because obviously the Riddler is exactly that.
Yeah. See, DeVito works perfect. Like he's a perfect Penguin. I don't know if the Penguin that we got in the movie was that like what I would have expected though. Like DeVito is just like that's not what I think of when I think Penguin.
I don't either, but like once you saw that, the scene started showing, and you're like, oh, you know what? Now that I think about it, that's not what I thought of. That's not what I used to think of when I thought of Batman either.
That's true. It's definitely it's a version. It's a flavor.
I've been seeing a lot of different names in the comments here. A lot of love for Romero, which is great.
Oh yeah.
Some people saying that's their favorite, and just a little bit of everything.
Oh yeah. Again,
Rachel
so
Hall also
says
versions. Joker was a bit overused in the animated series. Says there was. Oh, did we talk about that? Yeah, we talked about that. We said Arkham series. I read animated for a minute, and I was like, "Well, that's interesting." But no, that's not what he was. That's not what he was talking about. Actually, a little surprising that they didn't use him more often in the animated series. Like they were pretty conservative in making sure they didn't go to that too often.
Yeah, well, I think they were interested in fleshing out the rest of the Rogues Gallery because we got so many great villains in that show. I mean, Maxie Zeus.
The joke, yes, of course. You know, if you want to single out one of the greats, yeah.
Yeah, if you're gonna do Joker every other episode, you don't have time for it. Yeah, Baby Doll and Maxie Zeus. They're definitely in the top 20.
Dan, should we go on to our comic review? We're gonna review it.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like this transitions well into there.
It really does.
Sure.
So I thought it would make a lot of sense to review a Joker origin because we're doing this show so close to when the Joker movie came out. And it was an origin, and that was a thing that a lot of people weren't sure they really wanted. And I think after it, even a lot of people that liked it were like, I still don't know if I ever I had this. I still don't know if I ever needed to see a like Joker origin movie, but well, that's maybe about the best you could have expected. So that's cool.
Sure.
They kind of pulled it off. For most people, I think with this character, and especially after Dark Knight, but I think people had this a lot before that too. The Joker's character that they like to see stay ambiguous, where you don't know exactly where he came from, because he is kind of that force of nature character. I thought of this today. Batman, to anybody who doesn't know who he is, also has that, right? Where, like, nobody can peg what Batman's background is, what his motivations are, why exactly he goes out and does what he does, why he's as extreme and as good at it as he is. And so for the public perception, obviously, we know that Batman is Bruce Wayne and what his motivations are and why he does that, but they both have that reputation, and we're simply not looking at it from the Joker's POV, and so you never, in a lot of versions, know where the Joker actually comes from. And then there are, of course, versions where you do kind of get to his POV, but he doesn't know either, because he's just that far gone now. Or maybe he just won't tell you. But with, so we thought it would be cool to review a Joker origin from the comics, and this is, of course, not the definitive Joker origin that anybody went with. I don't think this story is ever called back to in anything. I could be wrong about that. Batman Confidential. Go ahead.
We'll talk about it when we get around to it, because there's definitely shades of this Joker origin in Batman Arkham Origins, funnily enough.
Yeah. So Batman Confidential was a book that started in late 90s, early 2000s, and it was trying to kind of fill in gaps a little bit and tell stories about Batman early in his career, but kind of all over in different places in his career. Lovers and Madmen is the 6-part or 7-part Joker origin story that's the second arc in Batman Confidential. And like I said, it's not, I don't think of it as like the definitive comic origin. It's missing stuff that you usually see and that a lot of things talking about early Joker will still go back to after this, like the like the Red Hood. Curiously, this Joker does not become Red Hood first. I think this version of Jack, he's never called Jack Napier. I'm gonna assume that's his last name, but
they just call him Jack.
They just call him Jack. Yeah, but like, I think he very easily could have been Red Hood with what he was doing before he became the Joker, but they didn't decide to put him in that mask and do him that way. So I think the comics tend to still loosely take the origin we get, if we can even be for sure that it all actually happened, because there's maybe a little bit of an unreliable narrator thing going on in Killing Joke, which does have the Red Hood thing. So it's kind of just another variation, another potential version of the Joker's origin. I've never been sure how much of Confidential is even supposed to be canonical. I don't know if, and I haven't read a lot of other stories in this book. I've read this 3 or 4 times, but I don't know if any of it is supposed to, if it's supposed to be just like in like an off the beaten path continuity, or if even it's continuous with itself.
That's kind of
I don't
how
know if Confidential comes back to any of its own stuff very much either. I've just not read a whole lot of this book. Yeah.
I just treat everything that I read of Batman as like just a different version of, or like it just seems like everybody has their own riff that they do on Batman, whoever's writing it or taking it on and all that stuff. Good old Batman Confidential.
So this arc is written by Michael Green with pencils by Dennis Cohen. Really interesting style Cohen's going for with this. I like Cohen's art. In this, it's super stylistic. It's really sketchy. I usually wouldn't care for as extreme as he goes with facial expressions. I don't know what it is for this material. Like he could be using this art style for a completely different story, and I would hate it. I don't know what it is. I've always been taken in by the art style in this particular context, and I don't know why, but I really like it.
Like it works so well for the moodiness of the story, and it is very, like you said, it's very sketchy. It's impressionistic at some points with the penciling.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
There are a couple frames here and there where the shading on the face is like the shadows on the face are so pronounced that it was like, all right, that's a little ugly looking. But other than that, I think almost everything looks like fantastic.
Sometimes it is ugly, and sometimes I think it's intentionally ugly.
Yes. But like there's a shot
work in this a lot. Like I think this works. I think the colorist should get a lot of credit for why this works.
Gosh, that looks so good. So I was reading this on the DC app, and I do the panel version where it's like going from panel to panel. They have some issues with their app at points. Yeah, because it was like skipping pages at points and then skipping back, and I'm like, what?
It breaks down a lot for me, and I start to wonder if I have a bad connection, and then like everything else I'm doing on the internet works fine, but not this. Like I have to keep reloading the page, but yeah.
Anyway, back to this stuff.
Now we're just reviewing the DC app.
Yes. Because this was what year did this come out? Was this 2008? I want to say.
I think it's earlier than that. I'll look real quick because I cannot remember.
I like the Bat Tank because it reminds me of the Tumbler. And
it's a combination of a couple of things, isn't it? Because like it looks like it looks like the Tumbler with the fin of the Batman Forever car, and then the front of the 50s car with that face.
Yeah, well, they like, so that's the tank right there, and the other one is very much
that's
like
a different car.
The classic one from the classic comic book.
Because it's a different car. I'm sorry. I was just
he has the tank and then he has the car. The tank looks like the Tumbler. The car looks like it's like a combination of like all the different eras of the Batmobile, which is really
neat. Me. I don't know what I'm talking about.
You're fine.
Oh, you're right. It is 08. I thought it was earlier than that.
Yeah, okay, so this came out.
I said early 2000s. No, this is only the second arc, which means this series has to start in like 07 probably.
Yeah, this was mid 2000s. I only know because I just read it, and so. But yeah, this came out the year Dark Knight came out.
Yep.
So.
Which is really interesting because. Of course, Dark Knight is a movie where the Joker has no definitive origin and he keeps making up different origins. And this is influenced, would you agree, heavily by the '89 movie?
Yes.
And I don't mean to say that there is that it's like exactly the same Joker and the Joker like they're different characters, but it's weird some of the stuff that it takes from it and kind of runs with.
There's some '89. There's some of the animated series because they tie in the Harleen Quinzel stuff. Yep. I love how so getting down to the story, it's pretty much Jack. Batman is 40-something weeks into his run of being Batman. He's gotten rid of the major crime bosses. There's a power vacuum in Gotham right now. And he's just now getting used to the idea of being Batman and the idea of being, the overwatcher of Gotham. And we have Jack, who is this like hitman / criminal who seems to be like a for hire kind of guy who just has no feeling he for what he does anymore, anything for life. He's just done. He's quitting. He's absolutely at the end of his rope.
Death wish. He's fine if he just gets killed right now because he's just bored. He's looking. His job used to be fun. He'd get and I like how this is handled in this scene with where he meets Harley Quinn, where he's and she's just a like pre-med student right now wanting to get into psychology
and she's doing bartending to pay the bills.
Yeah,
barely.
And so she's his bartender, and already doing kind of the somewhat skimpy clothes thing because she's got like a cutoff shirt, and he says without us knowing what he does. I mean, once he says his name is Jack, we're like, okay, this is the Joker because we know we're reading a Joker origin story. But I like that it keeps under its hat what exactly he does until you see him do a bank heist. So he says like, I used to get up in the morning and really get excited about my job, and now I don't have that anymore, and I kind of dread going to work. And he sounds like he just has like a paper pushing office job. And, and I really like how that's handled because he just talks like a normal guy, and you're like, oh, this guy has no empathy and he has no feeling except for himself. And the point of this with the Joker is supposed to be that and this is where I think it's looking at 89 a little bit and almost trying to improve on 89. Tell me if you agree with this. One of the big criticisms a lot of people have of 89 is that Jack Napier is already a crazy person, and then he becomes the Joker, and now he's a crazy person. And we have a line toward the end of this where Batman or somebody says that Joker is if a crazy person went insane. Like, what happens when insanity goes insane? And it's like taking that that idea that was almost accidentally in 89, because I don't think that movie is supposed to have a crazy person with Jack Napier, but a little bit like Jack Nicholson's performance in The Shining. He's not supposed to be crazy before he goes crazy, but he seems a little crazy.
He's already crazy because
already
he's Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. And this
the eyebrows.
And this does it on purpose, which is kind of an interesting take.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. I just like that it's Harley who pushes him to go for one more shot. Like, well, just give it like she was talking about how she was doing thinking of going into pre-med and all that jazz. And that's what she was studying with psychology and all that stuff. So she was already like psychoanalyzing him outside of an Arkham sort of setting. I like that them taking it out of that and taking it even further back and giving them this connection. Where she pushes him to do it, and that's on that next heist that he does. He runs into Batman and sees him, and that's where I see the Arkham Origin thing, where they definitely seem to have gotten that from this, because in Arkham Origins he's already the Joker, but once he sees Batman, he's like, oh wait, there's this guy who is putting his all into stopping crime and all this stuff, and he sees the toys and the look, and it inspires him to. In Arkham Origins, it kind of shoehorns like, oh, we're destined to be whatever. But in this, it gives him a purpose to live. It gives him a feeling again. He starts it kind of opens up the world for him again. And he's like, I have something to work towards or something, because he was already doing things. Like you said, he's already insane. He's already crazy. One of the things that gets Batman on his trail is he's following. There is this jewelry store murder spree, essentially. There's a lot of people murdered, but none of the jewels were taken. And there was seemingly no reason for the crime at all. And it seems like Jack is just trying to feel in any way he can. Well, was he working at the store, you think? Because the way he was, like you said, it seemed like he was talking about like a 9-to-5 job. I felt like he was working at the jewelry store and then he just killed everybody there.
No, he seemed to be like if not a gun for hire, like a I couldn't tell exactly what he was doing, if he planned the heist himself, or if people came to him when they needed plans for heist, like ballistics for heist. It seemed like he was like like kind of a gun expert and kind of like maybe a lock expert and stuff. Like he was just really good at heist. So I think he just worked with a crew. And I don't know, the way he was talking about it, it seemed like that was the thing that he did every day, that he kind of just had gotten dealt with because it got too easy. And that immediately gives you the Joker who is brilliant at something and is maybe more of a match for Batman, which is, again, the thing that the Joaquin Phoenix version was missing. So, like, he's already got that skill set.
Yeah, definitely.
Before he becomes the Joker.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, he's a weapons expert. That was the thing that Batman regarded when he was going over the jewelry store like massacre, was that the kills were incredibly efficient and just a tap to the head and an extra one to make sure sort of deal. So Joker was clearly already trying to, through his own crimes, feel something, and then runs into Batman. And then so Joker just starts creating these pretty much unpredictable crimes that Batman is just like driving Batman insane trying to figure out who's doing it. What do you think about the love story in this?
Well, can I backtrack us for just a second before we get to that? Just because we in talking about the Harley Quinn thing earlier, I wanted to mention that, and I'll back off for a second and say that I have a love-hate relationship with this arc. There are things I really like about it and things that I don't think work at all. It's a really entertaining read. Like, I always like sitting down and reading this, but I have more problems with it every time I read it. One thing that it really gets right is, for the most part, how to handle prequel matter in not too convenient of a way and in not too obvious of a way and in not too cutesy way. I really like that Harley Quinn does not become Harley Quinn at the end of this arc, at the end of the story. Yeah. I like that she's only got a couple of appearances. It's pretty understated, and I don't think this is going too far and too cutesy. I like that she kind of helps create him before he creates her. Like, you assume that sometime down the road, of course, she's going to be his therapist, like we usually do with her, and she's going to corrupt his mind. But he gets the bug to go back to work, like you said, because of her. And if he'd never met the woman that will become Harley Quinn and go insane like he does because of him, Batman might have never had to deal with him. You might not, because he had to go there to see Joker or to see Batman in the first place. I also like the idea that Batman is where he finds his sense of humor. Like, it's not just that it gives him something to strive for; it's that he finds Batman amusing. He says that costume is ridiculous. You saw that.
The costume and the toys.
Yeah, and so, like, now it's fun. You're right. It gives him a challenge, but it's like playtime now, and that's what he was looking for. He wanted to be entertained by what he does, and that's a good take. I like that. That's not exactly like anything we've done before. The love story, I've got issues with.
Lorna.
Things I like about it and things I don't. I always complain. So let's talk for a minute about what exactly the love story is. Bruce Wayne meets this woman kind of conveniently at the same time as the Joker thing is happening, and there's sort of a parallel thing there because we always do like something of like a romance with Batman and Joker, and so of course he's got to, in starting that romance with the Joker, get to a place in the middle of that where he's no longer looking for romance himself. He's not going to have a real life because he's now, somewhat unbeknownst to him, chosen a life with the Joker instead, is how I read it. And he meets this girl, Lorna, who is too perfect. And Alfred is constantly, of course, pushing him to keep keeping dates with her, and keeps telling him that he can have a real life, he can be Batman, but he can also have a life. And somewhat predictably, by the end of this, he decides that he is not able to have a life, and she almost gets killed by the Joker. At one point, you think she's probably dead, and then Alfred gets the call from the hospital, oh, she's going to live, which is actually somewhat surprising. And then when you get to the end, in order for him to continue on being Batman, he decides that he has to let her down in the worst way possible. And
I like that scene. I did like that scene.
I don't, but
he had to cut it off. He had to cut it off.
He didn't have to cut it off the way he cut it off. The thing is, it's too compounded. This goes to my biggest issue with the book, actually. My biggest issue with this is actually not anything about the Joker. It's about Batman. I don't like this Batman. By the end of the day, there's too many things compounded where he is way more unsympathetic than he needs to be. That is laid on so super thick. This is a Batman who, and we'll talk about this in a minute, this is a Batman who completely creates the Joker by doing a bunch of bad moves, and then at the end, he's also got to be just the biggest jerk face to his girlfriend and letting her down. And it's almost like it's... I don't know, it's almost like it's trying to do Mask of the Phantasm again, but like if Batman was like a really mean person. And I don't think... It's almost like issue to issue, the creators of this are not seeing the forest for the trees, and they're not realizing just all of the things compounding on themselves that make Batman just a horrible person. And when you get to, like, I don't think they know that Batman seems so awful. And when you get to the way he treats Alfred is really, really bad. He's really crappy and unnecessary.
He breaks the, he's being very critical of him about making this super neural net computer and all of its different things, and then he breaks it.
And he breaks the thing, and then when Alfred builds it, rebuilds it in comically too fast, he's like,
why are we doing this?
He's like, what are you doing, Alfred? He's like, well, I fixed the computer so that you have a computer, and he's like, why are you playing with toys? It's like,
no, you're right.
You could make the argument that the Joker's getting to him, but it does. All of that could work. The execution of it, I think, is really off, where it seems like we're beat over the head constantly with the idea that Batman has done all this training and he understands criminals, and criminals are a simple lot, and he shouldn't have any problem with them, but he's met his match, and we did the same thing in Dark Knight. But in Dark Knight, I bought that he was starting to lose himself a little bit, and like when the Joker keeps saying you gotta break your one rule, he keeps bending that rule. He drops that guy from a high place and breaks his leg, and you're like, oh my god, Batman's starting to lose it, in a way that I didn't buy with Ben Affleck. Like, oh, you're branding people, you're also running people over with your car. This guy seems to actually really be losing himself. In this, those two things seem a little bit separate, because he doesn't even know that much about Jack at the point that he's starting to lose it and do things to Jack he would never do to anybody else. And I also have a really tough time with the idea that before he becomes the Joker, I get that he's going on a crime spree and Batman can't figure out his motivation and it seems like he's just sadistic, but is that enough to push Batman so far that this is the one guy where he calls up a hitman and says, go murder Jack? I don't know. That was going really far to me.
Yeah. No, I hear that. I completely hear that. I also think it's funny they need a supercomputer to know that they should go to the gala where all the most wealthy people and where it'd be the maximum casualty of that night, considering Batman, Bruce already had an invitation to that thing in the first place.
Yes.
Why wouldn't that be the most obvious thing? I guess Gotham's a big city and maybe there's a lot of things going on, but do you really need a supercomputer to know that?
Yeah, and then the same thing happens later with another event, I think, if memory serves, where it's there's this costume party. Hey, Bruce, you want to go to this costume party? And then that was the one. Yeah, the Joker goes. Is it the same? Is that the same thing?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
convenient. Yeah,
because they had to have the supercomputer say 80, 90 something % of they'll be attacking there.
That was silly. But I'm sorry.
And he happened to.
I've jumped all over the place, but how do you feel about the romance? Are you with me that it's a little wonky? It's not great.
It's very convenient to the story. That's the maybe the biggest thing is it's a little contrived to. They hit it off very well, and they do the work to get the relationship going. But the fact that she's so patient with him, it's too easy. He stands her up constantly. And then she invites him to this party. He doesn't go, but then it ends up the Joker is there. And then he happens to grab her. He's going through the different potential hostages he could take. He's like, oh, no, too fat. Up, no, too, whatever. And then he's like, okay, I'll grab her, but she's a little too skinny, so I might get shot. Maybe it's not the best one. But and then he ends up shooting her. And then Batman throws it's to get Batman to kind of break a little bit and be violent, kind of like you talked about in Dark Knight where he drops the guy from the thing. Joker shooting Lorna makes Batman throw the razor blade batarang that I guess he saves for rope cutting occasions or something. And he ends up kind of giving him the, what is it called? What's when you have to cut face thing. I can't.
I don't know if there's a name for that. I don't know what you're trying to come up with
there. There is a specific name for it. It's like crap, Moscow smile or something like that. I can't remember what it's called.
That's how he gets the smile on his face. And
yeah, that's how he cuts his face.
I'm of two minds about that one, where that does seem a little bit too prequely to me, where it's like Batman's got to give him his smile and like compound it on. He's already starting to become the Joker because he finds Batman funny, and then later, I actually love this, but later he's going to fall in a vat not of acid, but of antidepressants. And
yeah, it's so
he's
good.
He's going to see the whole world as like rotten and gritty as it is, as happy and wonderful, because he's like so hopped up on pharmaceuticals, which I think is actually a great take. But compounded with some of this other stuff, it's all a little bit too much, I think. I like each of these things separately, but I think all of it together is maybe a little bit much. You know, like, I think maybe the scar should have come after he becomes the Joker, where maybe that's the icing on the cake before it's like there's all these preliminary things. We're like, look, he's inching closer to the Joker, and now he just looks like the Joker, and it's because of, you know, antidepressants. Maybe that should have come later if we were gonna do it, but I like the image of it a lot. Like, Batman creates the Joker in every single facet, and I think maybe that ends up being the problem in making Batman look a lot less sympathetic than he needs to. It helps a little bit that it's really early in his career, and this is the first big supervillain he fights. I like that he hasn't dealt with anybody else yet, like supervillain-wise. Like, I like that Joker is kind of
the first.
Yeah, like in the same way that Batman's kind of the first person to think of this vigilante idea, he's the first, like, psychotic super criminal, like, as Arkham is about to be built, which is also a little bit convenient that, like, Jonathan Crane is building Arkham at the same time as Batman's fighting the Joker for the first time, and then he's the first one that's thrown in there. But all of these are images I like. I think when you put them all together, they just start to look a little contrived.
Yeah. I mean, I ultimately liked most of the way it went. Yeah, but like you said, it's pretty quickly after this that Batman turns to the mob boss to pretty much knock off the Joker. Where he takes him to I don't think it's the Ace Chemicals building, but it's a, you know, drug manufacturing building. And they Joker already has this disfigured smile, but they're beating him up and like horribly torturing him. I like how he's like jiving them for like not torturing him properly while they're torturing him. He's like, if you really wanted to do like real damage, you're not doing it right. Like, you're just hitting me in the face. You already broke my jaw, 20 minutes ago, and you've just been working the same thing over and over again.
That was pretty good. Yeah,
that was really good. And like you said, him going into the vat of the antidepressants, and it truly like pushing him like making him cuckoo insane. Like, before he was like criminally insane, now he's like really insane. He's seeing a bunny on the moon. And
I kept trying to read that image. I kept thinking there was like something more to that I wasn't grabbing onto, but like maybe he's just an insane person, and it's like everything is bright and happy, but that is like the creepiest image. Like,
yeah, well, I love how he talks after the accident, like after the antidepressant stuff, like, because he's like saying phrases like later he's talking about
the bunny on the moon.
The bunny on the moon. It's the bunny of his eye. Like, well, the thing is, he's talking about how like everybody's walking around and nobody sees the bunny on the moon. Nobody sees the colors of the sunrise and all that stuff. He hadn't before, but now he sees it. Like, it's truly opened his eyes to this whole new world.
It's kind of like Joker in Dark Knight when he says, "Now I see the funny side."
Yeah.
It's interesting how a lot of the ideas that are in that movie also wind up in this, and it couldn't have been influenced by this because they came out the same year, but it doesn't feel like they're talking about all the same things. There's just a lot of like really interesting things that kind of line up a little bit.
I kept thinking of the line from Dark Knight where Bruce says, "I know now what I have to become to stop men like him." Like, that's kind of what this Batman's going through the entire time. Is trying to figure out, who do I have to become to fight this kind of criminal.
No, that's exactly right. I was a little bit put off by the language with the Joker, just because he starts to talk like another Alice in Wonderland character almost.
Yeah, Mad Hatter a little bit. Yeah,
a little bit. Where it's real sing-songy, and he starts saying things where I think this
like
is a little overwritten. I think there's a lot of places where there's just dialogue where we don't need it. But the Joker keeps saying things that don't mean anything, and he'll use words that don't even really like fit in what he's saying, and I don't know, maybe it's a little off-putting just because
like,
it's different from how anybody else does it, and in places he seems like he has to be too lucid to be talking like that. So it's like, are you putting on an act, or like, are you actually like this? But it does go along with the, you know, if you were if you started kind of crazy and then you were this hyped up on antidepressants, you might talk like this also. Like this, it's a perpetually high Joker. Like I want to think that somehow the pharmaceuticals stay in his system and never leave. That's.
I mean, he's clear. His body is completely tainted by it. He's been turned white. His hair's green. His suit that was brown before turned purple. Like
it's almost like his superpower is to not feel sadness now.
Yeah.
On top of his inability to feel for other people, which is horrifying. And so, and this is one of the things that's always wonderful about the opposite thing with Joker and Batman, where Batman uses the negative to create something positive, and the Joker uses something positive to create something negative. And this is taking that to like the nth degree, you know, literalizing that as far as it can. And that's the big thing. Like I'm mixed on this book. The vat of pharmaceuticals is the coolest idea. That's wonderful. Everything about that is great.
Yeah, I really found myself liking the way he was talking. Like right here on the page you have pulled up, where it was like, I was like them, sap of a sad tree, couldn't see the forest ranger. Like, as opposed to saying couldn't see the forest for the trees, he says like he's like word association Joker, because later he says when he's shooting the ropes and like it's kind of the final confrontation between Batman and Joker, where he has a bunch of people dangling. I don't know how Batman didn't see it. I guess it was nighttime when they started the fight, but he's shooting the ropes and people are falling, and he says like, oh crap, he was like says something about a gun drop, and then later he like, oh gosh, I can't even remember the line. I wish I had it pulled up on my end. But he's talking about like gummy bears or gun drops, and he's like, it's like the words are blending in his mind with phrases and stuff. And it's just so like he's clearly not completely right in the head.
I like this hand-to-hand Batman Joker stuff toward the end of like the penultimate issue, because it looks really classic. Like, like I like that we've got, you know, the classic black and blue Batman and a very traditional Joker outfit in this not especially traditional, you know, Joker story. It's a really nice juxtaposition, and again, it looks gritty and creepy, but it also gives me, you know, some throwback to 70s Batman and Neil Adams and stuff, and that's great. I love this page. But I also really appreciate, I pulled it up in a minute ago. I know this had nothing to do with what you were talking about, but yay for blimps. I always love blimps in Batman.
Yeah.
I don't know how the Joker possibly had enough time to make Joker things in this.
That's true. You're right. Well, I mean, he clearly had money.
Yes, but did he have time? It seemed like a whole 2 days passed in this entire story. I don't know how long it actually was, though.
I think they're playing with time, because I mean that is the first big thing he does once he becomes full Joker, is the blimp thing, and then Batman's in the hospital, or well, Bruce is in the hospital with Lorna, and refuses to leave her side because, you know, he's choosing that over the Joker pretty much.
And the Joker's just in an interesting position where he has to finally say, okay, in this particular case, you have to actually leave her side and go stop the madman. And most of the time,
when he's been pushing him to her the entire time,
and so I don't know, that makes it a little bit more compelling that at the end he has to give up his personal life. And again, that's not the problem I have with it. It's just the execution of him with that particular person, because she's been so patient with him the whole time, and he can't come up with any way to let her down a little bit easier.
I know.
I don't understand that. Like, why don't you just say, well, he had an out. All he had to do was, first of all, this sounds awful, because this sounds like stringing a person along. But in this particular instance, I think it would be somewhat validated, where she just got her legs broken and almost died. Maybe you don't break up with her right away. Maybe you wait till she gets out of the hospital, and maybe you bring her flowers and you spend time with her and you talk to her, and then when she gets out of the hospital, you say, look, I had to wait until you were feeling better, but you've noticed how I'm never around. I just don't have time with work. and having a relationship, and I feel horrible about it, and if you want to punch me in the face, feel free. He doesn't do that. He gets flippant with her because he's trying to build also that Bruce Wayne persona, and he's like, well, I have to seem like a jerk face, even though, you know, this probably actually hurts me, although I don't get enough of a sense of the remorse he ought. He probably does, but I don't know, that scene is just played up too hard, and I just don't buy either end of it at the end of the day, because, you know, I'm always, going back to what we were talking about earlier, I'm always complaining when characters aren't reasonable enough. This goes too far and makes her way too reasonable, and so it takes almost dying and getting her legs broken and Bruce Wayne being flippant and callous before she finally goes, oh, you know what? You do suck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think ultimately his goal was probably to get her out of Gotham, because she even, like, after that, she's like, I don't think I can live here anymore. Like, I'm just going to leave.
Here's the thing. You might be right about that, but he continues making her feel way worse after she's already said she's leaving. I could be wrong about that. But she's like, well, that's all right. I was going to leave anyway. Now, maybe... Oh, no. Maybe she wasn't going to leave, and she's just made that decision now in the moment and is trying to make it seem like she was always going to leave.
Oh, no, I don't think she was going to leave. I think it was once he laid it on so thick and was just such a huge jerk face. I just read it this morning. That art is whack, Ben Lutz. The art is very, like, again, it works for the story that they're telling.
I think you have to sit down and read it. Just looking at it as we're talking about it, I totally get why you're saying that. I didn't like it either the first time I cracked it open years ago, until I started reading it, and I don't know, man, there's just something about the ultra super stylized nature of it that with this particular material. And the thing is, I think it elevates the writing, because a lot of this writing I don't think is actually particularly good. I think it's overwritten. I think there's a lot of really weird turns of phrases and things. I'm not going to go to a bunch of examples, but there's just odd places where I'm like, I don't know about that word choice. I don't know if this character would say that, and with people acting kind of odd and heightened, I think this art style it fits this material. Like, I think if it was a more, you know, kind of standard Batman style that you're really used to, and if it was more, you know, photorealistic or whatever,
clean,
if it was more polished, I think that hurts the writing. I don't think the book would work as well. I think it's got to look weird.
Yeah, it's very moody, and it's very it's very stylized sort of deal. It kind of puts you into the story. It's very chaotic. It's very emotional. It's very all those things.
But no, if I hadn't read this, I mean, I'll complain about it right now. If I hadn't read this entire book and I just looked at this page, this wordless panel with Batman, I'd be like, his shoulders are too broad. He looks really silly. Look at him. And who puts a line of a panel through Batman's face? Look at it. It's he doesn't just go over the panel. The panel is sitting on his face.
Yeah. You're not wrong. Well, there's only a couple shots that I was like, oh, that's kind of ugly, and it's just ugly. That's it. Like, there's a shot of him in the cave where there's just like heavy shadows on his face, and they're like chunky lines.
Here, like that's all. He looks almost like he's got a beard, right? Like,
yeah. No, I concur. It is a little weird at points. The shadows are kind of what does it sometimes, where it's like, ooh.
Can I also complain about panel layout in a place?
There were a couple points where I was relative. That one, this is the page. This is the page.
Yep.
That page is confusing. Like that double splash page
Especially if you read it panel to panel. It's not so bad if you're actually opening the book and reading it like a normal person. But it's still really odd, right? Like, I was not sure. Okay, no, it doesn't work the more I'm looking at it. Okay, so
no, it doesn't. It's confusing.
Here's the thing. Where your eyes would usually... I'll just use my pointer as a pointer here. Okay, so where your eyes would usually go in a comic book, right? Even though you've got panels on the bottom that are separated from this larger picture, and by the way, this is a piece, looks great. I mean,
as a work of art, if you take away the word bubbles and stuff, like it looks amazing.
You might not like the Joker's face, and that he looks too much like Agent Smith from the Matrix, but okay, so you're going across. And usually what you do when you get to these lines where the Joker says the last laugh to live for, you would jump down here, right? But he says that, and then Batman says, you're crazy. And what I read was Well, in that case, this is actually the last thing you're supposed to read. It's not a panel, which partly makes it confusing, but this is not anime. You never go right to left in a comic book. You would have to almost like point. You have to almost put an arrow there, which we don't do anymore. But like, your eyes don't naturally go this way. What you're actually supposed to do is read this line, "You're crazy," and then go down to, "No, I'm not. I'm just funnier than you." And then sort of like a Sonic level that just goes the wrong way for a couple minutes until you turn back around. You just go down and to the left, and I can't be the only person that couldn't read that page right.
Yeah. And this isn't the only page in here that is like that, or where it's confusing of how exactly to read it.
It is the most egregious.
Yes, this is the worst, I think, of the entire thing. But yeah. Yep. So it has its little quirks and oddities as far as like things that are a little shoehorned or a little weird. I think ultimately the entire arc and the entire ride of the story is solid. I enjoyed it a lot.
How would you feel if this was actually the Joker's origin? Like if this was the one we made definitive in comics and we kept going back to it, like would you accept that? Is it just cool as like a sort of Elseworlds alternative, or would it work as canon?
I think it works. I think it works pretty well. I could see I just reading like the stuff with the Harley Quinn, with him and Harley Quinn, the Arkham stuff. I think it all works really well. It's like a different version of the Dark Knight, almost, as far as like confrontation with the Joker, and all that stuff. But yeah, I think it works.
I think it works really well on its own. I think this would be a Joker that would be harder to keep telling stories about.
Yeah.
Like I think I don't know. Usually the mystery really helps where he can be unpredictable. I feel like I almost know too much about the psychology of this Joker to keep doing anything with him. Like he's interesting enough for this story, but I feel like he's almost too one note at the end of the day, where it's like I kind of know everything about this Joker I feel like I could ever know.
Yeah. There isn't much mystery as far as, but I mean, like, you don't need to have a mystery in order for it to be a compelling character, depending on the story that you're telling.
That's not what I mean, though. What else is there to add to this character as far as, like, developing him and playing with his psychology? Like, the pharmaceutical idea is a really cool idea, but I don't know that it's got legs if you were to keep telling stories with this particular version.
Yeah. And they never, like, I would imagine they never brought him back. Again, I don't follow any of this stuff, but
I don't think we ever dealt with this version again.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
But I don't know. That's my reservation about it. If it was to be a Joker that kept going, but on its own. But I mean, the same is true with the Joaquin Phoenix Joker. I don't know that there's anything else to do with that Joker.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. No, I don't know either. I guess
we'll find out, because I bet you money the WB makes that happen.
The kids WB.
The WB. You come up with an excuse to say that on almost every show, and it's great.
Me? Yeah. The kids WB?
I think you say that a lot, yeah. Am I wrong?
I haven't said kids WB in a million. I completely forgot about kids WB.
Like, yes, Ben Lutz, that is Batman Confidential.
Hey, look, it's us.
Oh, yeah. Whoops. Oops. I got to jump back to, yeah. There we go.
Woo! We're back.
Well, anything else you wanted to make sure and say about that story?
Oh no, well, thank you for bringing it up, because again, I'm not like, I have some of the major storylines that I still need to read. I still have No Man's Land. I still have Nightfall. They're on the list. Those are much longer than this. But I never really know which arcs to pick or where to start with like certain stories, and I like reading a lot of the kind of big arcs that a lot of people regard as like the better ones. And I thought this was really good. It was like, I wouldn't have read it on my own. I don't know if I would have ever gotten to this otherwise. So I appreciate you bringing it up and introducing it to me, because I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot.
Well, I'm really glad you enjoyed it. Again, I think you like it more than I do, but I find it very readable. It's a lot of fun to go back to.
Yeah,
well, definitely. Let's go on now to the Bat Chat. We are almost at 2 hours, and I don't really know how the heck that happened, but
because we like to talk.
We sure do. We'll talk to you guys for a little bit more about Batman and the Joker. Now is the time to ask some questions, and some of you guys had some really good questions earlier, and we just weren't to that segment yet. We just made you wait forever until, like, past your bedtime. But if you, probably not, it's like 9 o'clock here, I don't know. But if you want to ask any of that stuff that you already mentioned that I didn't get to earlier, feel free to put that in now. Don't, like, keep repeating it, but I'll see it if you do it now. And then other things, feel free to go ahead and throw in some questions or topics. Anything about Batman you want to talk about. You can throw in more Joker topics if you want to. Just keep it Batman related. And right now, we're going to talk about another topic that I came up with. And we touched on this a little bit, but maybe we can go a little bit more in depth, Dan. Dan, I want to know what you would want to see with the Joaquin Phoenix Joker later, or if you even need more of that material. I've said this before. When I walked out of that movie, I simultaneously said, I don't really know what you would do with more of this, but I want more. Like, simultaneously, I was really frothing at the mouth for more of that movie, but, like, that's... Good movies sometimes do that, right? Just because I wanted more in the moment doesn't mean that a sequel should be made. So what do you think? If we did more of that, what should it look like, and do you even want to see that in the first place?
Yeah, I have no idea what it should look like. I mean, I would like to, by the end of that movie, you kind of get to the point where that character is finally the character that you're going to see, pretty much. You know, he seems confident in his place as the Joker. And I think I talked about this last Batmosphere, but, like, you know, I have my own issues with that movie of, like, kind of how it all plays out, and the characterization of that character. But by the end, I very much feel like he gets into a place that, like you said, I would want to see more of that character by the very end of it, because he feels like the Joker, and he's by the very, very, like, final scene, he's doing Jokery things.
Yeah, I was almost more frustrated that it was over than wanted a sequel. If you get the distinction.
Yeah. But I mean, if they can do something interesting, if there is more to say about that character, because I know, like, was it Todd Phillips or was it Joaquin? Either one was saying, like, or I think it was maybe Joaquin, like, if they had another movie to pair it with, because this one was very, like, Taxi Driver, King of Comedy sort of deal. Like, I don't know if they would only do it if they had another movie they can kind of splice it in with. As far as concept goes, like, that seems a little weird. Like, I mean, I wasn't one of my least favorite parts of the movie.
Movie to rip it off. To rip off.
Yeah, well, that's one of my least favorite parts of the movie was that it was so Taxi Driver meets King of Comedy. I liked the performance that was in there, but, like, I felt like we were already kind of a little bit been there, done that with the concept. So I don't know. Pair him up with Groundhog Day and see how that goes. That seems to be a popular genre that's coming around again.
Oh no, the Joker causality loop movie.
Yeah.
Joker meets Happy Death Day, but he's the killer, but also in the loop. The way you get out of the loop, Joker, is to murder everyone. It's just Joker kills everyone, like Deadpool kills everyone. Except there's a causality loop.
Yeah. Casting De Niro felt quite blatant. Well, that, and apparently they had gone to, they had talked to Scorsese about producing and being an executive producer on it. And I think he was just like, they're good. They can do their own thing. And yeah, sure. But
for the longest time, I thought Scorsese actually produced it. And then I was like, oh no, I think was he there, like, on the ground floor, and then he just didn't actually produce it? Or, like, he was involved somewhere in the early stages, was he not?
Around the announcement. It was one of those things, again, where it's just like everything that comes out of Warner Brothers with the DC universe. It was a leak or whatever, where it's like, you know, they're saying Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix are going to make a movie with Scorsese being a producer. And that's all it ever went to. Once they officially announced it, Scorsese was never attached to it officially. Weird. And everybody just kept running with it. Like, I kept seeing on news websites, and even, like, you guys talking about it, like, you know, like, talking about Scorsese being involved, and he wasn't. He was not involved with the movie.
Well, look, we're not journalists, and we never said we were. And
no, I know.
I got duped by that also. Yeah.
But So
Which
like
is
he,
really easy for me to do. I have reviewed fan trailers I thought were real trailers. So I mean, take everything I say with a grain of salt.
They did talk to him.
If you're watching Evolution, you might be wasting your time. That should be a disclaimer.
I'm not saying that.
In front, I am. I'll say it right now. You might be wasting your time.
But yeah, no, they talked to him about it because he said in an interview like I think they maybe wanted him to direct, but he did not. He wasn't interested, and he was like they're in good hands. They can Todd can handle it. So that was literally his involvement with it. So Joker 2 Electric Boogaloo, yes, Mr. Roboto.
Everybody always puts Electric Boogaloo on the anime.
I know, or Joker 2 Joker Harder,
or Joker 2 Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, the Wrath of Joker.
So the biggest challenge, like I said earlier, I'm a broken record, is if you're going to do more of this, if you pair him with Batman, is he a match for Batman because he doesn't seem to be a criminal mastermind. Once you get past that, if you figure out how that works, I think this Joker with the background he has and the character piece we got could be used in a Batman movie. I do. What I don't want to see is Joker 2. I don't need another character piece with this guy done in that style as a as like an art house film. I don't need another one of those. I think this has to be like Captain America, where the next one you do is in almost a whole other genre. And I think the Joker should be a supporting character in somebody else's movie. I think you treat it as an origin film because it's what it is, and then you spin him off and let him be in something else that is tonally like connected enough, close enough that you'll buy that character there, but is not more of this. So like I'm totally fine with that with that version in something else, but it cannot be this again. And my worry is that the lesson that Warner's will learn from this is these kind of movies sell, so not only will they make Joker 2 and it will be this again, but they'll also try to make a bunch of more movies that are carbon copies of it with other characters.
Yeah. And I've heard I can't remember if it was rumors or what, or people just speculating in general, like about them doing like an Arkham movie with the Joker in Arkham with the other villains populating that as well. That
would be weird given the sheer number of villains that are in the Batman and the rampant speculation, and I think this has got to be true that some of that movie will be set in Arkham. And I know originally the script that Affleck put out was supposed to be somewhat set in Arkham, but yeah, which is I think all anybody wants, right? Like,
yeah.
I've not talked to one person, even people who never played those games but know something about them, where you say, just adapt Arkham Asylum. Like, nobody disagrees with that. Just do that.
Well, and even I've never read the actual comic Arkham Asylum. And
that's not really an adaptation of that book.
No, I know that. Yeah, I know that. Because I remember
adapting that really,
because it's very like
surreal.
Yeah.
And it's not as much about the story that's being told as it is about the way you're supposed to feel reading it, and it's a lot more of a visual art piece than it is a story. Like, there's a story in it, but it's a little confusing, and it's not. Eric and I reviewed it recently, and it feels recently. It was probably 6 months ago now. And I know a lot of people love that book. We did not, and it seemed to me like some like not Morrison's finest work, and kind of like he's channeling his inner like college kid in a first semester writing course. It was very much what that felt like, but like visually you can use some cues from that.
Sure. Yeah, I know that was the book that Christian Bale read to make him interested in going for the Batman role way back in the day. But yeah, no, I've never read it myself, and I wasn't sure how much it really. I knew it didn't tie into the video game, but I wasn't sure if that was any sort of like if it was even adaptable. Just because I mean, looking at the cover, it looks very surreal.
I want to see more comic accurate films. Joker was a good one-off, but we need to get back to basics before this gets out of hand. I think there's room for both, and I'm with you. That was so popular that you go back and look at Logan, and then you look at this. And I think the lesson that a lot of studios, well, there's only two now. I mean, let's be real. There's two studios now. But I think the lesson studios are going to take from this is going to be a good one and a bad one. That like we need more really hard R, rough, make you cringe in your seat movies based on things from comic books. But hopefully also that not everything has to fit in that superhero formula, and that not everything has to be a superhero movie just because it's based on comics that have superheroes in them. And I'm hoping that both of those things happen, but I also hope that we don't end up with oversaturation of one completely canceling out the other one, because when that happens, you're going to have real movies or this 150 times in one corner and MCU in the other corner, making arguably to a lot of people kind of the same movie over and over again. And I don't think that's wholly true, but a lot of people feel that way, and there is some truth to that with a lot of their movies. So the only comic book accurate films you would get would be MCU, and a lot of comic fans don't feel like that's comic accurate enough, and that it's kind of dumbed down and too popcorn fare. So all I need is variety, as I'm always saying.
Yeah. Well, and at this point, the head of the MCU, Kevin Feige, is the head of everything Marvel now. He's the head of the comic books and TV and all that stuff.
I don't love that, but yeah.
I know, yeah. But now it's all under the same umbrella, so it'll be as comic book accurate as anything now.
Gail Davis says, I'm glad Phillips squashed the idea of a sequel for now. I still will be really surprised if it never happens, or if Joaquin Phoenix doesn't play the Joker in something. But again, I'm potentially okay with that. I'm really curious to see when we get the Batman, if that is so stylized I could not see it living in the same universe.
Yeah.
I think you have to see that movie before you can say if those two things could go together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say Matt Reeves is, I mean, his style in general is kind of, I don't want to say Nolan-y, but his style is kind of like Christopher Nolan's the Planet of the Apes movies. Like, so I am curious to see where he goes with it.
I think he's going to stretch his legs and make something that looks like he didn't make it.
You think? Well, the cinematographer is the same cinematographer, I believe, of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That's really interesting. And
that's not a super stylistically. I mean, it's a Tarantino shot movie, but like,
it's also not an epic action movie, and I don't think this is going to be an epic action movie. I mean, I'm sure there'll be like brawls and stuff, but like, I'm expecting something not understated, but like stylized in a different way. When I meant to mention this earlier, when we got word that the suit was supposed to be the gray and blue, I was like, there's no telling what this movie looks like, because nobody's ever attempted that. And I'm really stoked about that. I've heard people say that it's, maybe this is just speculation given that color scheme, that it's supposed to be like an updated, more gritty version of the 60s bat suit. I don't think it'll go that far. I think the blue will be very dark blue. I'll be real surprised if it's a real colorful movie, but it's cool if they're willing to go that far. And the Planet of the Apes movies look pretty darn realistic. That doesn't sound like realism to me. That sounds like heightened and stylized. Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. I hadn't heard anything about the suit yet so far, so that excites me. DeJuan Patterson Powers wants to know why I don't like Kevin Feige in charge of all Marvel, and I'll answer this real quick, even though it's not Batman related. Because of forced synergy. If Feige is in charge of Marvel, and Marvel has all but said this, they've kind of said this, they don't care about comics as a medium anymore. It's all about using the comics to sell merchandise and to sell the movies. Feige being the head of all of it means that, I'll be very surprised if it doesn't mean this. And I don't mean to say that Feige doesn't like comics and doesn't care about that medium, but that seems like a choice that has got to be, and if you go back and look at the way the comics have been going for the last several years, they seem to be like very often advertisements for movies before they're anything, and like they're trying to be as close to that and keep calling the movie things as they can, because they seem to have this idea that has never been true, that they can somehow get people that aren't reading comics to read comics if they look more like the movies. You look at the numbers, that has never been the case. But they've got this obsession with the notion of synergy, and they're putting the movies first, is the point I'm making, and that is going to make me care care less and less about reading Marvel Comics. And so that's why I can't get behind that. And I hope that that's not the case. And if miraculously suddenly the comics start getting better because Feige's in charge, that would be amazing, but I don't expect that to happen.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I haven't been keeping up the Marvel comic books in a million years. Spider-Man was probably one of the last big things. I've never read Iron Man. It's really, I'm more of a movie guy when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Well, Dan, I think that's maybe going to be a wrap for us. I'm not seeing any other comments that are asking stuff outside of the Joaquin Phoenix stuff. So we're past 2 hours. We should probably go ahead and call it a day. Hope you guys all enjoyed the show. Dan, did you have a good time?
Of course I did. I always love talking Batman and hanging out with you and chatting with the chat. And Mr. Roboto said did a $2 super chat earlier. Said Ben Kingsley for King Tut and Willem Dafoe for Zeus.
Man,
Maxie
that was
Zeus.
a million years ago, and I totally forgot we didn't actually mention that. So thanks for bringing that up. Yeah,
I agree with Maxie Zeus, Willem Dafoe, and Ben Kingsley for King Tut. Sure.
Yeah, no, that's an amusing notion.
Yeah,
sure, that'd be great. I'm totally fine with serious, scary versions of 60s Batman characters. I want to see more of that. It bugs me that in comics we still haven't really played around with that very much. It was fun to go the other way in the 60s Batman comics, where we would take characters that were made after that show and did them in that style. Have I ever told you about what they did with Bane?
Oh, yeah, I think you did. I think you have.
Their Bane is
Refresh
great.
me.
Yeah, well, so he is a like just standard Mexican wrestler wearing a luchador mask, and like in the third season episode where Batman wrestles, the Riddler is his coach in the wrestling ring, and Batman fights him in the wrestling ring. He gets him for whatever reason to fight him, and he does the back break. He does the famous back break in the wrestling ring. He picks him up, and we think that he breaks his back, and that's like the big cliffhanger of that issue. The death trap is Batman seems to be getting his back broken, and you turn the page, and Batman's just fine riding the Batboat talking to Robin, and Robin's like, "Gee, Batman, how'd you survive that back break so easily? You should be lying in a hospital right now." And Batman says, well, Robin, luckily I always keep a batarang right at the small of my back. It's fantastic.
That is pretty great. And with that,
it's my favorite.
We sign off.
That will do it for us today. Thanks a bunch for watching and listening. Watching? Did I say what? Geekvolution.
The Watchmaning.
Thanks a bunch for watching and listening. I hope everybody had a good time. We certainly did. I was Captain Logan.
That was Dan's News.
Dan's News, and we'll see you again next time, everybody. Bye!